sure we're. Hold on, let me make sure we don't have an echo first. All right, start. I don't hear anything yet. You can hear me normal on my headset, not on the crappy.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastical. It should be.
And I'll have to drop out early for the Scottish Rite.
But then you'll come back. It'll be fine. Right? You are coming back, right?
I'll see if I can get back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hello and welcome to the Supreme Council of the Master Geeks Lodge. My name is Bill Kelly, Hornswoggle the Great. I am one of your very enthusiastic co-hosts for this empty Monday. We got a lot of rain in Arizona. That's uncommon for the beginning of May. It's usually over by now. Oh, and with me I have, please, gentlemen.
Car guy, automotive detective, savior of all pedestrians, also a protector of everything geek, and a reminder of have a safe and happy Cinco de Mayo.
Rob the Blacksmith, and I wore the appropriate shirt. I am the warranty.
I got my many Iron Man suit shirts on with Tony Stark all the way at the bottom, but it's all Iron Man's. This shirt's like 25 years old. Or no. About that. Christine got it for me a long time ago.
Hey Rob, did you get your shirt from Tavares? I am the warranty?
No, who was it? Somebody it was either the guys on Junkyard Digs or it was Vice Grip Garage who had said, I am the warranty.
Oh, and yeah.
Somebody on the show said, we need to get shirts made up. So I went on to Amazon to look for a shirt, and there were 4 or 5 different kinds with different script. And I thought, yep, I got to have one just for working in the shop. When somebody comes over, what does that shirt say? I am the warranty.
Dude, that's a legit shirt.
That is too funny.
That's too funny. I have the word. Yep.
Today is National Astronaut Day and National Cartoonist Day.
Wow.
Among many other things, but I'm still laughing about. I figured, okay, I'll get a quick snack. I'll try to get something that's everybody will like in the house. Goldfish crackers, that'll do. Those are always a hit. You know, you start eating them when you're a kid. You hold on to them when you're an adult. So I get to one of the. I'm like zipping through Walmart because I was running late. I was out at the ranch for like 5 hours today. So, well, maybe not that long, but all of a sudden I see. I just posted it on our Supreme Council, and then I'll do it on mine. Old Bay goldfish flavored crackers. I love Old Bay. That'll be great. This will be wonderful. And you grab them. Smells like Old Bay. Okay. I get them home, open them up. They're Old Bay, the red, kind of the red splotchy. They always kind of have that in there. And then they smell like Old Bay. Okay, they look like Old Bay. And then I put a big handful in my mouth. And I almost choke laughing because it tastes like V8. I love V8. It's not a slam on V8, but it's... I mean, I'm still eating them. They're very delicious. But... bait and switch, damn it! It's that. That constantly happens in life where people will be like they think they're getting one thing and they put it in their mouth and it's something completely different. And you're like, oh, is it bad? Well, no, it's just not what I thought it was. So I love watching that reaction in individuals, and I love it even better when it so infrequently happens to me. I normally do research before I put something in my mouth. I don't put anything in my mouth. Come on now. Like I had go ahead.
I know what you mean because I started buying a drink named Starry. Then I got this painfully told to me. I go, hey, this is pretty good. This is a pretty good drink, and it's just a soda that I found for 99 cents out of Fry's. I said, it tastes so much like CRMS. And I had a friend of mine in the comics go, you don't know, do you? And I said, what? And he goes, that is CRMS. I said, and he said, really? He goes, yeah, it's CRMS. He goes, you didn't hear about it? And I go, no, what happened? And he says, supposedly with 7-Up and so forth, there was an influencer of some sort that her name was Sierra Mist.
Oh God!
But because a Pepsi allowed the copyright to run out in Sierra Mist, she copyrighted it. So when they tried to get the copyright back from Sierra Mist,
Oh, that
they
dirty
couldn't.
bitch! Yeah.
She had it, so they had to change the name. Now it became Starry, and I'm like, oh, it tastes like Sierra Mist, and I'm like, oh, it is Sierra Mist. I did not know that. Talk about bait and switch. I thought it was a new drink. Oh, it's a new. It tastes pretty good.
It's the same.
Sierra Mist.
Yeah. No, and I'm hard pressed to find any Shasta colas. But in the '80s, those were the Kroger for Pennsylvania, for out here. I didn't really drink a lot of soda in Pennsylvania because I was like 6 years old and I didn't know the difference. But out here, Shasta came in like every fucking flavor you could possibly imagine. And then now Kroger has kind of filled that because Citrus Drop is Mountain Dew and Lemon Lime is Sprite. Because I made the mistake and I just put a bunch of cans. I was like, oh, I like to drink Sprite, but you can drink a lot of Sprite, but you can only drink so many Mountain Dew. I'm too old for this to happen to me again. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Dr. K is Dr. Pepper. And...
Yeah, Dr. K. Then they have Dr. Thunder at the. It's funny because Shasta. I mean, we practically RC and Shasta we grew up with.
Yeah.
But then you can't find it anymore. You find it sometimes at the dollar store, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, but you don't find it in the stores regularly. Or maybe every once in a while, a Circle K or AM/PM.
Yeah.
But it's all the Kroger product, the Safeway product, all the generic, and even the generic stuff at Walmart.
Well, I usually drink diet. Well, most everybody around me later was getting diabetes, and everyone just started switching to Diet Cola, even though it's like one of the absolute worst things for you. And Kroger, not that we're Kroger, not a sponsor. I just consume mass quantities of the product. Venus, come here. And the thing is that I learned from not just Draco, a good longtime friend. We'll have him on the show because he's many things. I taught him how to juggle when he was 12, and we just kind of kept in touch. Him and Josh and a couple of the students I had actually kept in touch with me all through their lives, and now they're in their 30s, and I'm in my 50s. But it's interesting how, like, certain things are set up a certain way, and diet soda. If you mix hard alcohol with diet soda, it's going to hit your lower intestine where all of the absorption happens. Thus, why the butt chugging thing was so popular a couple of years ago. I mean, I understand that it's going to be more intense, but, dude. Anyway, that being said, but that's why if you mix hard alcohol with diet soda, it's going to hit your lower intestine and give you the effect of alcohol that you're looking for way faster than any of the other types of soda. And dark liquids seem to penetrate the blood system faster than light liquids. I don't know how scientifically accurate is that. I do not possess a degree. That's just my own personal observation. But that's why I think that's why a lot of people got into the diet soda craze. Not just for it's two-fisted. It's double, diabetes on one side and alcohol enthusiasts that don't have to switch to scotch on the other side yet.
Well, that's so funny that you say that because remember the time like when we were growing up, Bill, and we were gaming, our soda of preference, if we wanted to stay up and game and do a lot of stuff, was Mountain Dew.
Normally,
then they got into the end. Yeah, then they got into the energy drinks, the Monsters, the Red Bull and stuff, and it kicked caffeine a whole entire notch. Because I remember back in the day, powering down Mountain Dews like crazy, just keeping that energy buzz going to at work and so forth, or early in the morning. Then they got to the energy drinks, and wow, that was a game changer because like the 5 hour power drinks and stuff on it that came later.
Yeah,
You would power
later.
those down, and you would be wired for so long. But then the downside when you were
Yeah.
coming off at that high, oh
I
man,
don't
the
like
crash.
I don't like stimulants. I've never done cocaine or speed or crank or crack or meth or any of that. And it was funny because when you and I, like a seventh grade dance, we were going to Desert Shadows, and there was a girl who offered me speed first before I had even tried weed, and I didn't even know what it was. I mean, you're a seventh grader, you're, you know, first couple months into class, and it's like, well, no, thank you, because that's what something very deep inside me said. But with weed, it was different. I had always been interested in it. I had always been curious. I had always been, not that it was the forbidden fruit, but it just seemed like something so absolutely familiar. That being said, but I mean, even Coca-Cola had cocaine in it for a while. I mean, before we knew that it was bad.
Turn it, mhm. Turn it to Century and stuff on it. So
Mm.
I mean, it's crazy stimulant because it's quite addicting too after a while. Because I mean, when for the short run when I was working with Geek Squad, I would drink a lot of the monsters
Mm.
because I was constantly running and going. That eventually I had to stop because the doctor said I was having like a twitch because
Really?
of it. So I had to come off of it, and it was like trying to come off of it. I had to weed off of it. Now I don't touch the stuff at all.
Mm.
But at that time, I was doing long hours, long shifts, driving and stuff, and to keep myself up at different times of the day, I would power through a monster. And when you're drinking 4 to 5 a six pack, ooh, that was just getting bad. So the doctor said, my previous doctor said, you got to get off of that stuff because it's going to hurt you.
You always heard as a joke growing up, and not to be, "Oh, it's racist. We don't give a fuck," but you would hear the term ancient Chinese secret, and it was done as a joke normally. It's not a term you hear. Terms you don't hear nowadays. Awesome. Awesome to the max. Rad. Tubular. Gnarly. Then I said this at work and they thought I was crazy. You don't normally hear females say the sentence, "I was so embarrassed. If anything that like that happened to me, I'd shit twice and die." That actually was a phrase in the 80s.
That was a
Unless my brain made that out of thin air. So I find it interesting though that things changed. And now I was so busy laughing at that you guys were laughing at that. I lost what I was thinking about. Oh,
it's just stuff. It's just funny stuff like it just brings stuff back to memory of stupid things. Remember with the term fugly?
ugly. Yeah.
Like,
Oh, we were talking about things that aren't used a lot anymore. And damn it, I was going to make a point. I hate getting old. I keep forgetting everything. It'll come back in a minute. Don't worry, it always does. My brain works on boomerang time.
yeah, you said they had
Ancient
something.
Chinese secret. So the problem is that in Asia, Laos, Korea, Cambodia, Vietnam, all of them collectively, guarana is used in the minuscule amount because it's so fantastically powerful. And they've been experimenting with these stimulants for thousands of years over there in a loosely kind of knit apothecary sense where they were way ahead of us. And that traveled through the Silk Road and beyond and shipping and history class would make you believe that everyone just kind of hid in their box and who's that? Oh, they're strangers. Oh, fuck them. That's not how it was. It was a lot more trade and negotiation oriented. And the problem is that Red Bull has an incredible amount of guarana in it. And over time, that you tend to develop polyps in the inside of your colon that get you a lot of problems. Now, I don't drink a lot of Red Bull. I am a coffee enthusiast. I do enjoy and love tea, oh so much. But coffee is pretty much the main fuel of the day. So I don't really. I have a red. I mean, I can count the Red Bulls I've had. I've probably had under 10 Red Bulls, and they were offered to you like cigarettes at the haunt because they wanted you up, operating on a certain enthusiasm level. So they were handing out Monsters, Rock Stars, Red Bulls, that, and it was easy to get a contract for a haunted house for energy drinks because they're going to be giving them to the actors, but they're also going to be selling them out front. So it, you know, and that I had heard that several times, that different people that I had known in my life complained that they were having, because polyps are the beginning of cancer. If left unchecked, that becomes a more nastier place than it is normally. There, I said it. So, that's something that was always a huge deterrent for energy drinks. And then the 5 hour energy, dude, man, that's anything from a gas station. You kind of only got to take once or twice.
Actually, it's true what you said, because even some of the actors, because we know an actor, Danny, helped him, was Toby Keith, and he died of colon cancer. But he used to have a rum and coke, a diet coke, but he used to drink a mix with Red Bull and something else. Going back to what you're saying, mixing with certain colas and dark colas, that he died of colon cancer years later. But always something had to do with the Red Bull, had to do with the whiskey and stuff that he drank. But he died relatively young. So you look at it, the causality of it makes sense, because even when I was talking to the doctor one with the monsters and stuff on it, is you couldn't come down off the high normally, or you had to keep drinking it. So basically, when you were going through it, I was doing like three things at once, and my mind was just racing out of control. I couldn't slow down. Then later on, I had like a little bit of a heart murmur, and I was getting like a twitch in my eye, like this. Da-da-da. And once I got to that point, I said, nope, that's it. And I've never touched one since then, and it's been okay. But the overdone of caffeine was having very adverse effect. And it's been more than 10 years since I've actually touched one, and I've never gone back to it. But it got to that point where I was just trying to stay awake, and I got quickly involved with it, and not thinking it's a harmless drink, but I didn't realize what it was doing to me at that time.
Some drugs that we have in our society, you can function on to a certain degree without lasting effects, and then other drugs, not so much.
Not so much, yeah. It takes its toll out it. But things that you did in the 80s, things in your back come out here, and the way people look at things is quite different. It's kind of funny that when you talk to younger people and stuff on it, they have no point of reference because they never been referred to and things with it.
No.
So, and it's funny talking to people like, remember like in the early 2000s where they had fat, calling a woman fat, pretty hot and tempting.
Yep. That's
And some people don't know that reference. Don't know that reference. They don't know the origin of certain references or words or something with it. with what's going on.
Well, words come and go, and some words disappear completely, and then we make up new ones because it's like, oh, that's not a real word. We've been making up words for 200,000 years. I mean, the English that we speak isn't even really English. It's an amalgam of like 6 languages: French, German, Latin, Greek, and Pictish.
But will you ever notice that the new slang words is always a shortening of a bigger word, base word, and they simplify it just to make it quicker and easier to say? Then
Yes.
they lose the initial meaning.
Yes.
They're just saying a bigger word smaller, then they lose the original meaning of the original word. You got so many in the English language that are now that they cut down so much that it's starting to mean something else when the original meaning is now lost.
What's really interesting is, okay, in 90, fall of 90, I started doing workshops for the little Renaissance festival that used to be at 28th Street Indian School, and of course the big one because I got involved with it. And something that was really interesting because I was still holding on to the dream of being a writer, and I was trying to save enough money to go to college so that I can get a degree in English. Oh, that didn't last. So if you were to go back to the 1400s and just grab a random human out of Europe, just picked a random place and a random human and grabbed him a buddy from the same village and put them in a room, their average, the average words in a sentence, just the average, was 36 back then. The average words in a sentence in 1990 was 18.
Wow. Holy crap.
So I really want to know what the average words in a sentence are for 2025, because you don't have to look that far. It's there in social media and text. Now we're talking about the average sentence. We're not talking about giving directions or explaining a story or telling a tale, or we're talking about, like you just said, we've gone from, so what is up with you today, to sup.
Yeah, what's up, sup. Yep.
Sup is short for what is up with you today. That's what you would normally say to a friend, to someone you give a shit about, or a coworker, that an associate that you have to make conversation with, and you like the person, you wouldn't mind becoming friends with them, but you're not on a friend's status yet. So you're going to have an average conversation with them. Now, if you're at the gym or around in the neighborhood, it's going to be sup. If you're at work, it's going to be, how's today going? That's what I usually ask people. So, how are things? And I let them fill in the details.
Well, even when you said that, if you look about it, what about you get other people that don't go through the trouble of explaining it? They do the yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Or they do. Or they do.
Long before Seinfeld.
Before Seinfeld, they're even using it more now. And what about this one? I need you to do X, Y, and Z.
You know where that comes from?
Yeah.
But President Adams, the X, Y, and Z affair of the late 70s or the early 1790s, mid 1790s.
And they never explain it because they could have just explained what they were doing. Instead, they use X, Y, and Z.
It's the X, Y, and Z affair, the Frenchmen nobles that were not to be named.
Not to be named. And it's funny because they don't even complete the idea or the thought. Using yada, 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 X, Y, and Z, any of that abbreviation, you're not finishing the sentence. You're not giving the information. You're not finishing the thought. And it cuts the conversation short. It's like before people relish with conversation, now people can't even have a conversation because it's, yeah, no, really, really shortened down. Every syllable is accounted for and everything's shortened down to the bare minimal talk between people or human beings.
Remember when... Okay. I'm trying to remember the term for it in the 70s. Rob, help me out here. Now it's Riz, which is short for charisma, which is what they keep saying I have at work. I'm still referring to it as game, which was a common term in the 90s. Machismo is all I can think of for the 80s, and having balls.
Well,
but I can't think of a 70s term that meant you were charismatic and generally... There's different levels of female attention and social attention. You can be extremely liked and charismatic, but the women still don't want to get naked with you. But you can also be that kind of person that says very little in the public, and the women can't wait to throw their panties at them. So not that this is about women. I'm sorry I took that turn.
It also it plays together because remember remember when Powers was talking about mojo? He's
Mm.
losing his mojo. They had
Mojo.
to go with
Thank you. That was the early '80s term.
80 terms. Charisma, machismo, everything like that with it. You're losing your mojo. You're
Muy macho. Used to hear that
macho.
too. Macho. Machismo.
Now they call it Riz. You
Mojo.
Riz
Now
up
it
a
calls it
girl.
Riz. Well, we had to deal with an entire group, and Tanner and I were going. Tanner's my 22-year-old card worker, and I looked at him and I go, "If it's okay with you, I'm going to do all the talking." He's like, "No, I like it when you do all the talking." You've got the Riz. They listen to you. Yeah, they kind of have no choice.
No choice. Yeah. Oh my God, the Riz and stuff on it.
Yeah,
That's
I'm still laughing about that one because it does not sound complimenting. It sounds disgusting. Riz,
it,
like going to the bathroom? Are you having trouble?
it sounds rudely sexual in a way, or maybe slightly confrontational or dangerous because
Yeah,
it, it,
kind of.
it
Yeah.
sounds sort of electrocution. Oh, that person just got rizzed. Oh,
Mm. I had to
it sounds like
explain where because the '80s were groovy. I'm like, oh my god, no, the
no.
'60s. Okay, the term groove comes from the '20s, and it's a jazz and blues term, or jazz actually, where the groove. It's after the grooves in the vinyl records, and they're like vinyl records. I'm like, vinyl records, and the needle runs along the groove and vibrates, and that goes through a mechanical vibration, and that creates the sound. And then groovy kind of was a late '40s and then revived in the '60s term where the hippies grabbed onto it, and you were in the groove of the no and the feeling with against the man and with Mother Earth, and that kind of happens even before in the beatnik genre with Maynard Krebs. And the problem with the beatniks is they're basically like bureaucrats pretending to be hippies who haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
And
You
then
know
they,
the modern
oh, go ahead.
well the modern thing of groovy is if you know, you know.
Yeah, that's how it started out in the '20s and the '40s with the blues, jazz. I could be wrong. Maybe it's '30s and '40s. But okay.
No,
Oh,
no. I was agreeing with you.
I showed them a clip, Fabian and Tanner, the trailer for the 1980 movie Airplane. And then I had to explain why parts of the movie were funny because they watched it and they were just like, "Oh." And I'm like, "Oh, he's making fun of Saturday Night Live, how he takes his coat off and he just throws it and then someone throws it back at him and hits him in the face." It's John Travolta's kind of like one of his first movies. It made him famous. It was all dancing. It was about a working class guy who wanted to make it, and he thought his only way was to be noticed and through dancing. And then there's that scene where they're kissing on the beach. And then I had to explain that is making fun of From Here to Eternity because that's an iconic scene where they're, not supposed to be together and then and they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, this is what destroys comedies, that you have to just explain the joke. But if someone from our age group isn't there to explain it to them, they have no idea why this is supposed to be funny unless they read the trivia on IMDb that explains, "Oh, that's why they did that." And that one of the main things of comedy is to mirror back at society and to poke fun to poke. It's always bothered me because I've always been obsessive of comedy and trying to make people laugh since I was a toddler. And comedies come and go, but dramas seem to be way more important and have a lot more stability. And the reason is because pain is identified and is eternal. Comedy is temporary and reflective of the time with a 30-year disconnect. And it's taken me into my 50s to understand that because
You know what?
all the comedy before me was hilarious. Buster Keaton was hilarious. Harold Lloyd was hilarious. Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges, the Marx Brothers, the Thin Man, all of these, Sitting Pretty, all of these really old movies that my parents went to the theater to see when they were little kids in the early 50s for the summer ended up being made fun of in the 80s sitcoms, and that's how we were referenced to them. Much like today, the way we were talking, I was talking to a coworker. Dwayne got me the job at Tapatio Cliffs, and he's just a little bit younger than I am, whereas everyone else is much younger than us. We're the two old men. And I said, the best way to teach younger people what the modern reference means to the past is through Futurama.
You know what? There's a great case study right now of what you were talking about that's happening in the theaters of references, and it's the movie Minecraft. Because I brought this out, I was talking to people on the interwebs. Is you get an adult our age that never played, if they never played Minecraft, they do not understand the references, and they miss the comedy. Where if you played Minecraft and you go in watching it, you understand the references to the people who are there.
Yep.
So just like you were talking to that kid and you had to explain airplane, the younger people understand what Minecraft is because they played it. So they understand the references. They understand the chicken jockey. They understand all those references. Where a person that never played it or played it very little doesn't understand the references, don't know the joke about nth metal, don't know the on it. So the joke goes right over their head because they have no reference to that joke. So it's the same thing like when you were talking about From Here to Eternity. That movie was done back in the 50s. None of these kids would have ever seen it unless their parents saw it, and even if their parents might have never seen it, so they don't know the reference to what it is. So the joke goes over their head. All they're seeing is just two people on the beach for the first time.
Rolling in the waves, and they're like, oh, okay.
Kissing. So their reference is maybe another movie with two people kissing on the beach, and it doesn't connect because it's not referencing that. So a lot of people don't get the jokes about, again, what made Minecraft $1 million movie. It's not because it was shot for regular people; it was shot for players of the game.
Yeah, here's
genre.
We got on a subject. I think Dan Creech was there, and he came in, and he works ballroom and sometimes a security guard, and he's been there for like 25, 30 years. And we started talking about the difference in, and I know you two will agree with me, and we talked about how women are very, very, like, all the women that are hot right now, in 20 years, nobody's going to talk about them unless they're fantastically exceptional. For example, I started on the biggest crime is that I told him, Dan, you and I have a very sexy memory of Annie Potts from Corvette Summer, and who is Harry Crump. You two are already smiling and not Annie Potts. Yes. Ghostbusters is a little different because it's still Annie. She's still sexy and hot and amazing and flirty. But she's in Janine. She's in this little nerdy character, which even makes her more sexy. Not the character, Annie Potts. But for Tanner and Jordan and Jennifer and Isaiah and Annie Potts' little Bo Peep in Toy Story. She's the one that Andy uses as a, oh no, they captured little Bo Peep. She's like, the, oh no, like Nell and what you call it.
That's funny that you say that, because you could see that happening right now. Look at what's happening to Sharon Stone. Look what happened to Vivica A. Fox.
Kat Turner, Vivica A. Fox. The list goes on and on. I've always hated Madonna for a very long time, but now it's just disgustingly, hilariously laughable to watch her gyrate on stage. Be graceful, take your place, move aside. Let the new generation have their turn too. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can still do Vegas. People will come and see you. They really will. But
Take your time. Don't follow the lead.
Stop trying to be the number one diva when you're 65 fucking years old. That's not a title for you.
Why are you trying to? Why are you still trying to prove it after all this time?
Yeah.
You were number one. You're Madonna. No one's going to take that from you.
No.
You got to stay Madonna.
Yeah.
You know, why worry about it? But then they get bitter about it.
I was furious when she was casting Dick Tracy as Breathless Mahoney, but she did okay. I was furious when she was cast in League of Their Own, but she did all right. The Desperately Seeking Susan and Who's That Girl? Those were movies that were made for her. Those are her movies. But other than that, I'm trying to remember other stuff she's in. The problem is that...
Body of Evidence, what was the other ones?
Which one?
The one with William Dafoe. Body of Evidence with William Dafoe.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, I forgot about that one. But my thing is that Cyndi Lauper was far more talented, and if you've... Everyone missed it, and it's stupid funny, but the movie Vibes was great because Cyndi didn't have to be super sexy. She was trying to be a psychic weirdo, and it made it all the more enduring. And you know, we missed an opportunity there. But Madonna was willing to be a bitch and press the envelope for sexuality, and that's what everybody wanted. They didn't want.
Well, that's what sold, and that's what made her popular. But you can't sell sexuality when you're no longer sex.
No. See, that's the problem. Is Cyndi went a much more family. Girls just want to have fun, and the wrestling thing, and the Goonies, and where like Julie Brown was the homecoming queen with the gun, and Earth Girls Are Easy, and you know you had. The problem is that there was a lot of funny 80s comedians, female Elaine Boozler, Rita Rudner, Paula Poundstone, and Ellen DeGeneres is the one who came out on top. And she had a couple funny bits, but pound for pound, Stephanie Harris or Elaine Boozler was way fucking funnier than Ellen DeGeneres. But I think the I'm secretly gay all along thing propelled her a lot further in the modern day than it would have. Because in the 80s, she would have been accepted, but it wouldn't have been that much of a, you know what I mean?
Big hoop.
That nobody would have cared, you know. Like Boy George. It's like, okay, he's great, and that's gay. He also does horrible fucking things. He, like, kidnapped a dude and chained him to a radiator and then beat him with the other end of the chain. That's not cool. Normal people don't do that kind of shit.
Well, the thing is what you're talking about is like my biggest thing is like with Annie Potts.
We can talk about Annie Potts again.
She's aging gracefully. She doesn't look a fool. So she's gotten roles and so forth, which I like the character, I like the actress and so forth. I think of Meryl Streep aging gracefully.
Yes.
Not becoming better, embodying her role. Where you get a lot of them that become bitter, because like Sharon Stone right now is bitter. The one who's going to follow Sharon Stone, and you see it already, is Charlize Theron. Sharon Stone is 20 years.
God, you're right. Stop talking. Sorry. Go ahead.
Even right now, Vivica A. Fox was a bombshell back in the 90s. Now
Angela
she's
Bassett.
But
She should have played Storm. I love Halle Berry. No, nothing on Halle Berry. She's great. I love her in Swordfish. But Angela Bassett should have played Storm. She fucking looks like Storm.
Yeah, the gravitas for him.
Yes. Angela Bassett's like, what, 5'8", and she can kick ass. Halle Berry's like 5'2", and you just want to like, oh, come here, little princess. You don't have to fight mutants.
But now even Halle Berry at least is aging with grace. But you see the
sorry, Stella. Let's go back to Meryl Streep for a minute, because Meryl Streep's like one of those like, God damn it, she's in one of my... Albert Brooks wrote a movie, and it came out in 1993 called Defending Your Life. I have a copy of it on DVD. I paid to see it 3 times in the theater because I was already into the Kabbalah and the Golden Dawn. So the fact that there was a movie about it was just like, oh my God! And then Albert Brooks is another one of those comedians and writer, producer, film director, actor, stand-up comedian that doesn't get a lot of Finding Nemo is how you know Albert Brooks. But that movie's just an hour and a half of him going, Nemo, Nemo, where's my son? And he does a fantastic job, but that's what people remember about Marlon. It's not that it's like, no, dude, that's Albert Brooks. You don't understand. He's this really smart, funny guy. That, or if, like, you're me and you're really into Kevin Pollak and his stand-up comedy and all of his impersonations, he does a spot-on impression of Albert Brooks. And they actually, like, went to dinner, and Kevin Pollak tells Albert Brooks, oh, congratulations, I'm so happy that you got a Lifetime Achievement Award. And Albert Brooks is like, well, of course you are. Nobody benefits of this more than you do they?
Because now he's got more material to joke about.
And Albert Brooks is not only hilarious, he's talented, and he wrote the movie Defending Your Life. If you haven't seen it, it's out there on the internet. Albert Brooks is like 49 and he dies. He gets hit by a bus in L.A. And when he wakes up, he's in this weird place and he gets dropped off at a hotel. And the next thing he knows, the phone rings. And some woman tells him that Bob Diamond is on the phone to talk to you. And he's like, who? What? What's going on? And Rip Torn is his defense attorney. But while he's there in Judgment City, because there's no heaven, there's no hell, you're either ready to move on as a fully functional, not afraid gear of the universe, or you have to go back to Earth and learn how to conquer your fear. Well, he meets Meryl Streep in the Judgment City place, and she's conquered her fear. She's a very old soul and she's basically like the perfect 45-year-old girlfriend. And he meets her in Limbo. And also Defending Your Life. Or no. Whoops. We've already been talking. I'm sorry. I skipped a groove. Death Becomes Her, which they're threatening to remake that, which they really shouldn't. Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn are absolutely brilliant in that movie. It's one of Bruce Willis's finest films. Much like Stallone and Oscar, Bruce Willis doesn't really get a lot of credit for Death Becomes Her and The Color of Night. And those are his more not picking up a gun, cerebral. Bruce can actually act movies that nobody talks about. They're too obsessed with Die Hard. And, what?
Jump to the Scottish Rite Call. I have to jump to the Scottish Rite Call.
Okay.
But I'm going to leave you with a couple of names that kept running through my mind.
Uh-oh.
I'm a little bit old. So, Helen Mirren.
No, okay, Helen Mirren.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
All three of whom were extraordinary beauties through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s. And they are all aging gracefully. And they are all doing extraordinary work. They've shown their ability to act as well as be bombshells. And I'm an old man, and you guys may gack at this, but I would be happier than hell to have any one of those three beautiful women say to me, you are an honorable man, and I would be honored to spend time with you. And
Let's
would be beyond my wildest dream. I don't even have to do that. If she's just willing to go, with me to the Scottish Rite Ball, I would be beside myself.
Oh, hell yeah. No, there are many.
Gentlemen, I will talk to you later. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy yourselves. Listen to these two sages as they give you wisdom of the ages. And if I can get back, I will be back with you.
Oh, I hope so. Hurry up and figure out your thing real quick.
Yeah, we'll see you in a minute.
Thank you, sir. We'll be back.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you for. Remember, like and subscribe. Rob will be back in just a moment. But now I don't want to talk about other ladies if he's not here because we haven't even begun to discuss Anne Margaret yet.
Anne Margaret, like for mine, is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer's the total package. She's like Amy Adams. She can sing, she can dance, she can act, and there is a girl next door quality about her that, like, sexy isn't a look. Sexy is a personality thing. Like, Meryl Streep isn't known as being very sexy, but in the movie Defending Your Life, because she's just so fucking cool, it, like, amps her attractiveness up a level. Here's a very interesting thing that I wish he had stayed on to talk about this, that Paul, who's no longer with us, Kathy was living in San Diego for a long time, and in '93 she went to San Francisco, and Paul and I went to San Francisco with. We went on went to a Morris Ale, which is a 3-day drinking, dancing, music party, old British style, and that's where they met. But Kathy also had a friend named Lisa, that she probably doesn't want to be talked about in this way, but excuse me. We ended up even staying at Lisa's house in San Diego when we did the San Marcos Renaissance Festival months and a year later. And Lisa was profoundly talented and intelligent and amazing and diverse and well educated. And probably about 5 or 6 years. Okay, Paul and Dad have been dead almost 3 years now. So I'm trying to remember when the conversation took place. Kathy and Paul and I were all sitting in their kitchen in the, we're in the breakfast area, and I think we were eating or having tea. I can't remember exactly what was going on. We were all there. We were all doing stuff together, and Kathy and Paul were still very upset that I was single. They didn't understand. No, I choose to be this way. I would have to give up so much of I never knew how much freedom I had that I was missing out on, wanting so much to be wanted by an individual and that nonsense. That doesn't matter, because that's fading. But the freedom of individuality is eternal. It just keeps going. You just keep getting more to do, learning new stuff, meeting new people, learning new hobbies. You don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have to. And Kathy was going through a bunch of women that were single, and I was making reasons why, it's not going to work and this and that. And it's like, you guys, there's a sensitivity level to relationships, and most of the time you're highly incompatible. So she made a comment about Lisa, but Lisa, she's not available. She's in a good for her. She's in a long-term relationship. But then Paul and I reacted to Lisa, and we were like, oh, yeah. And Kathy was like, really? Because Lisa's attractive, but Lisa's not the most attractive woman. She's kind of plain, where the more you spend time with her, the more attractive she becomes. She's got a fucking band. She plays bass and flute and guitar and piano, and she sings. And so it was like, we were both like, oh, Lisa. And Kathy's like, really? And we're like, oh, yeah. And she's like, I never knew. It's like, well, back in the day, she had a boyfriend, and now she's got practically a husband. It's never been a possibility, but she's always been attractive because she has her own interests. She has her own hobbies. She's going to do her own thing. You don't constantly need to be entertaining her or putting her psyche back together or telling her how pretty she is. She's not really, those things are nice to hear, but that's not her main focus. Her main focus is the book she's reading, or the philosophy she's just heard, or this new song she just learned. And that's a difference in the focus of your own suffering and your own enlightenment, your own reality of humility, because you're you. You can run around being happy all day, or you can run around being miserable. Dwayne and I were talking about about a coworker where it's like, dude, I want to be friends with this guy, but half the time I meet him, he's the guy at work. he's like really pessimistic and down on everything, and then the other fleeting times he's like, yeah, let's go, unstoppable optimism. But those moments are rare. Optimism takes fucking work. Anybody can lie down and be a pessimist. Not to be confused with a realist. They're not really a pessimist or an optimist. They're just basing reality on wisdom. They realize things are going to go bad and they tell you. They're not telling you because they want it to go bad. We were talking about it at work. Big argument with my father in my early 20s. Don't you get tired of being right all the time? God damn it, stop being right all the time. You're such a pessimist. No, I am not a pessimist. I am a realist. I see what's going to happen, and I'm trying to save you a whole lot of... I'm teaching you my wisdom, which was bought at the high cost of mistakes. But you don't see that when you're the child. You just see, now little Billy. Ah! So being an optimist it's 24/7, man. It never fucking ends. You constantly have to. Like today, Pete called me up. Sure you want to come out? It's supposed to rain. Hey, if it rains, we just reorganize the shop. No time lost.
Well, you brought out a big thing about it with relationships these days, and the things I hear and talking about it is that going back to what you were saying back in the 90s, dating in the 90s, dealing with people in the 90s versus today, is that a lot of people are. I'll give you an example. I had a kid that worked for me, and he was at my shop, but he was a perpetual victim. Everything happened to him, wouldn't take accountability for the stuff that he did. He was always, this is me. Why it's everything had to be so bad? So I understand
the level of suffering in my life.
And all the suffering that he was doing, all the stuff wasn't that bad. He had a flat tire.
Oh, okay.
That's
an hour out of your day, pain in the ass, but oh well, move on.
Move on. So what happens is you have people that are perpetual victims or perpetual suffering. They can't get out of their own way. And you get people in relationships and stuff on it that have, how can I say, the delusion is way too high. So they're not optimistic, but they can't see the faults in the reality. They can't see reality for what it is. So you get deluded people out there, and you're like, man, that's the other thing. That you think they're totally optimistic, but they're so deluded that you mistake their optimism. You mistake the delusion for optimism.
Because that falls into the realm of what I like to call, and it's not the medical term. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Assistant manager syndrome. Now, assistant manager syndrome happens in certain individuals across the board. I met a lot of people. I go out of my way. Well, now I'm getting older. I hide a lot more. But in my youth, I used to go out of my way to meet all kinds of people. Just to see. I had to look. I got to see. I got to look. Like I totally would be Pippin and the Lord of the... You always have to see. You're getting us in trouble. I'm sorry. I had to look. I have to know. I don't like mysteries and secrets. They fucking piss me off. So... I call it assistant manager syndrome because of past experience. Not just as a teenager, and not all of them. I had, like Kenny was really cool, and a bunch of, like a Taco Bell, and a bunch of other, and I ran into him later in life. Really good guy. Assistant manager syndrome, what I mean is like, they get to a certain level of society or in a job or in a clique or in a circle of friends, and the narcissistic ego like kicks in to overdrive, and they start to believe their own refeed. They believe their own bullshit. So you get this in weirdo religious people too, not to deflect from the example, but they don't have a lot of accomplishments. What they set out to do, they failed at, and instead of going, I failed, and picking yourself up and trying it again and trying another method or trying a different angle or trying a different, hypothesis or theory, they just pretend that the mistake didn't happen, and they throw themselves into like kind of like a lower level of authority. That's why I use the term.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's why I use the term middle management, because what they eventually do is they try to build a persona around the person they are when they're there.
Well, I'll shed light onto it.
Shed away.
Because is what happens with people, and this is funny. And I'll explain
it's sad,
something.
Dude. It's very sad.
Well, it's funny because it's how they handle it, how different people handle it, and how they handle pressure and how they handle responsibility. Because when it comes down to it, nuts and bolts, it's people that are in management. Sometimes you have people that are good management. They're born leaders. They'll take it. They'll take the responsibility. Win, lose, or draw, they got to do something about it. So they're willing to learn. They're willing to go by their mistakes, and those make the great leaders because they could go, "Oh, I fucked up here. Okay, I'm not going to do that again." Then you have other people that are just leaders by opportunity. And what I mean by this is you got a person that works up in the company, and due to other people leaving, they get forced into a position that they neither wanted or craved. So what happens now? Now they're stuck with it, and what they do, they're just doing it out of duty.
Yeah, and you literally have this. Oh, I'm gonna just use it. Adam, use a random name. Adam sucks at his job. He's terrible, but he's Steve's nephew, and everybody else. Oh, well, we can't fire him. Better promote him.
He fails upward.
Yep.
That's what they call it.
Only
failing
in
upward.
America can you fail upward.
Then you have other people, right? That what happens is they want a position. They think they're more than what they are. You have these people like, I could do a better job, and they're always undermining. When they get that job, their ego's too big that they can't handle the job. It's more than what they could do originally. So you get these people that come in, and you think they're go-getters, but they're really not.
Yeah.
All they want is the glory, but they don't want the responsibility. I would get people in middle management, and they will come up to work underneath me that wants to do this, but don't realize the hours, the responsibility involved. They just want the paycheck, they want the notoriety, and they cannot handle it because they're not managing anything. They're dictating everything. And that's where you get the stereotype of the manager asshole. I'm going to come in, I'm going to fix everything. Well, they're not taking control of everything. They're trying to force people and scare them. So you get people that cannot handle the pressure because when you're in management, you've got all the responsibility. For example, when you're running a store, you got all the responsibility. Means whether it's making payroll, whether you're making money, are you guys taken care of? Do you have enough?
Take the trash out. Is this place clean? Yeah.
Yeah, you got all the responsibility. And I would tell people, if I don't come in, nobody gets paid. So as for management, you have to have that the authority, but you have the responsibility comes with it. And some people can't delegate. Some people can't. They trying to micromanage. You get people in positions that are not supposed to be there. They're lazy. They want other people to do the work, but they don't want to do any work. They don't lead by example. So what happens is you get the wrong people in management that they're great talkers. Like a salesman doesn't necessarily mean a manager. A salesman will sell, but doesn't mean they can move people. They can get people to get behind them. Because sometimes you got to have people that are going to talk back to you. Some people they're not going to do. You got to have to discipline people. You're not their friend. You're their manager. Yeah. You can't be the friend. So they don't understand this dynamics, and you got to understand what the people are working with you. They cannot be in a management.
Yeah, I'm absolutely happy being a grunt at where I am right now because, oh God, everywhere I work within a year. Well, you're the leader now. What? No. God damn it.
Well, exactly what happened to you. I'll explain it. You experience what you're complaining about. And you're part of the problem as part of the solution. Because what happened to you is exactly, and I here from A to B, you're just an employee. You come in and you want to put in your work. Yep. Some employees are just like that. I'm here for a paycheck. I got my sights on somewhere else. I just need the money right now. The ends justify the means, okay? But they really get put into position. They get put into position because you're there, you know your job, you know what you're doing. Then all of a sudden, things go sideways. And the manager above you or managers above you all of a sudden get reshambled around. Or they disappear. There's a vacuum and a void that happens. Well, since you're the senior one and you know this, the person says, I should convert you. Never having a discussion with you saying, did you want to move up in this position at all?
Bingo.
So sometimes, well, Bill, can you accept it? And you wanting to be a player, accept it because you don't want to quit, but you really didn't want the responsibility.
Fired.
Or you get fired, yeah. So it's unfair to you that your manager never had a discussion with you ahead of time saying, what do you want to do in this company? Do you want to go up? If there are positions available, would you think about taking it? Are you open to suggestion, or do no one ever had that discussion. So the management that you had before never took the opportunity to grow you as an employee. So
No.
then you get tossed into the grinder.
Yeah. What was interesting with my sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, what happens is that's where a lot of people fail, because you get tossed into the grinder and you got to learn good, bad, or indifferent to survive, to float, to get the job done. So some of the stuff that you may do may not be technically right in the eyes of the corporation.
Sorry.
So what happens is your failure is not due to you not knowing, is you trying to figure it out, and you're going to make mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
The failure was the company didn't adequately train you and kind of went through to see if you were ready to go through that, to put you in that position, because you were a good worker. Why lose a good worker to put him in a position that he had no heart, no mind to do so? Then once you put him in that position, he's going to do the best he can, but it's not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. And now, because of that mistake, now it makes another mistake, and it goes down with management. It goes down. Now you're a manager trying to get stuff done, and you don't know how to do it. So the person that took your place, when you treat him that way, and you're trying to get things done because now it's your responsibility, now you look like the asshole when you never was the asshole to begin with. You see how see
Yeah.
how it propelled?
Well, I mean, even at work, I don't mind bouncing tweakers and stuff and being in the asshole, it or up the asshole or being the asshole. But it's I it's something that happened at work last week. If I make a mistake, that's on me. I will apologize. I will correct it. I will learn, and I will do my best not to make it again. I'm a distracted human. I'm probably going to make this mistake again. But my goal is to grow and to not make the mistake again. So if you call me on this mistake again, oh, crap. But the lack of accountability in a small microcosm of the coworkers that I work with, not just in the security office, because there's like one, but other than that, in the rest of the lack of accountability is a killer of success. And the problem is that, oh God, I know I've said it before, and I've heard it since my 20s because I was a terrible employee in my teens. And I didn't actually, I think every male and female has to go through that in the service kind of scenario, and that may not necessarily be the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, the Navy. You know, it may be a job, or it may be a family situation. But I think everybody, Ren Fair for me was, and the gas station was kind of like the forge. It made me realize that there's a lot of things that the Peter Pan reality that I had before my 20s, and especially having a kid, that completely changed my reality because my dad's parents didn't really give a crap, and he was in football, basketball, baseball, and theater, and Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and he made it all the way to the Order of the Arrow. It's one thing to be an Eagle Scout, but you have to be invited to be the Order of the Arrow or the Order of Light, or it's a big thing. So he was always too involved in everything that I was doing, and that kind of imprinted on me where even now, got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Hannah forgot to put her garbage cans out. At 9 o'clock, before I went out to the ranch, I went over there and let the dogs out. And, you know, you pay it forward. So
Yeah.
I think that has to do a lot with, like, you can't teach caring. It's a state of mind that it awakens in you. and you're going to screw it up and you're going to forget, you're going to do it wrong. But if you keep caring, eventually you're going to do it right.
It's true what you say, because what happens is, it's like, I've always been in management. I've always been in field, and sometimes I've been placed in management because nobody was else
Yeah.
there. I stepped up. Other times I took the position, and I took the position away. And I remember the first time when I made, back in Smitty's value days, back when Smitty's, and I became a manager for Smitty's, is I remember that I learned something from watching a TV show, and I always applied it. Because back then I was a little cocky, and they used to say, "Oh, guy, he doesn't think his shit stinks."
Ha!
But
Yeah, you don't hear that
remember,
anymore.
remember the TV show MASH.
Absolutely.
Remember Hawkeye Pierce,
Hawkeye's
Alan Alda.
basically Groucho. Of course I was.
Okay, what I learned from Hawkeye was, if you do your job great, no matter what inconsistency or how crazy you are, you do on it, they have to rely on you because your job, what you do, vouches precedes you. So in my first manager positions, even though I didn't know all about management, I was green, wet behind the ears, green, is that I made sure that my work preceded me, that I was a great worker. I got jobbed up. I got it in timely. Even though sometimes I wouldn't agree with the person telling me, sometimes upper management, I would tell them to kiss my butt.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause if I didn't see it the way it was and stuff on it, I was accused of cowboyism. I was a smart aleck. I wasn't
Yeah, you're
rude.
kind of a cowboy.
I was kind of a cowboy.
You and I
But
both. You, me, Ron.
we all are in our way. If you ever notice, all three of us are in our own way. We're smartasses. That's what it sums up to. And what happened was, my work preceded me, that I got the shit done. I got it done timely manner, and I avoided problems.
Mm.
And I trained other people, had other people, and people will say, "Well, he's the hardest person to work with." I had a reputation of being an a-hole sometimes. I wasn't an a-hole. It's just that if you didn't do it, I'm going to let you know you being an idiot.
Yeah.
That I had other managers come up and go, I heard bad things about you, but when I came up, you're the hardest working. You get stuff done. You do what you do. You say what you say.
Yeah.
And they appreciated me because people. That's how people saw me. They either loved me or hated me. So when you go with training with people and you understand it's like your dad. I'll give you a perfect example. You were looking at it as the employee, where your dad was looking at it as the general manager.
Mm.
So how you look at the store and how you view your employment is, if you're an employee, you only view it through the eyes of the employee. You're here to get a check. Why my boss is being a dick? Why I had to do this work so hard? It's over. Or the manager, like your dad, he was looking at it as general manager. Well, I got to get this done. I'm responsible for this much.
These people are morons. Here, this is why you're stupid. You have to do that.
And
He's
once
not
I got
a
up,
nice person to work with.
but once I got into general management and I started managing people and actually managing people, then all of a sudden it's like the whole mirror went
Yeah.
whoop, and I saw it from a different perspective. Because before, when I was the red shirt, or let's say the peon, all the managers, this managers that always got it. Then when I figured out, when I became the manager, those people said the same thing about me, which was not true,
Yeah.
because they were happy in their misery, and all
Well,
different
it's
people
not
walked
always.
in.
I'll give you the happy in their misery category, but it's also the. Some people create drama where there isn't drama, or they create orders where there aren't orders, and those get followed out because there's no point of reference at the time, and then the problem is later that gets discovered. But I think you and I, Gen X is also the Dungeons and Dragons age because it
Mhm.
happened while Gen X was young, and it's normal to us. And eventually, if you're lucky, or if it befalls upon you and you're good at it, you end up becoming the DM, and you become the DM forever. And
Mhm.
if you have a lot of acting skills, or you have the ability to do impersonations and to come up with jokes, that transfers very. This is why, dude, if we go back in time, we need. Okay, 19. 88, we have to be like, dude, we need to convince CEOs to do a Dungeons and Dragons retreat and teach their managers. We'll make millions, and they'll be playing forever because it was such a revolutionary game. There's so many games that teach you so many different things, but a lot of them rely on talent, and many of them rely on strategy. Dungeons and Dragons is both.
Yeah, but the biggest problem with going back, it's back then
Oh, dude,
nobody
there's no
nobody
denying Travis.
cared about it.
Joke.
Yeah, well, but even hypothetically, just saying, is that nobody cared about it back then. Dungeons and Dragons, everybody looked at it as,
Yeah.
oh, it's a kid's game. I don't know what it is.
What you would have to do is take enough money back and then get like a group of corporate guys to play and VHS tape it, like on a camcorder, like a shoulder one, like set it up in the room and then bring that to CEOs and be like, well, this is this corporation. I don't understand why you're not interested in this. Do you understand how much?
I think it would fail, honestly.
Oh, I know it would. But anyway,
the buy-in
you're destroying my dream.
Yeah.
Time travel,
what happens?
Which I hate.
Well, I'm a realist, and you know that. It's
funny baloney, dude. I'm totally talking out of my ass. It's nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's like the stuff right now today.
It's not a joke anymore.
Yeah. It's like today. It's like the people not getting Minecraft in the theaters. You know, they have that saying, "Oh, it's not made for you." Well, some things are not made for me, and they're not part of the culture, not part of my reference.
I don't really understand the obsession with Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I don't want it to go away. I think it should stay.
No, I don't want it to go away.
I like it, but Buttons loves it. My sister thinks it's awesome, so I would never want it to go away. I just think you guys are lunatics, and you love a terrible movie.
I love the experience of it. Go through the experience, may not understand it. And I remember going down Mill Avenue and going to a Rocky Horror Picture Show with some friends.
Why are they running around in their underwear?
Like, holy shit, what's going on? And they're singing with everything. So it's an experience. It's like a vaudeville show. It's good to have.
The time warp again. Yeah.
And it's so good. It so happens that it's a good experience that I had going through it because you didn't expect people coming up and running and reciting line for line what's going on in the movie and coming up in the front. And it's cool, but it's not for everybody. I understand it's not for everybody because some people will get freaked the fuck out.
Can't judge.
By it.
By the time I was 10 years old, because it was on cable for 2 years. That Marie and Beth and I used to be able to do Clash of the Titans because we saw it in the theater and we saw it on cable because it was on cable every fucking day for like 3 years. In my mind's eyes, I see 3 circles round. Go, baby. Yeah, all that. Like the Holy Grail. The funniest line out of the I'm white and nerdy. I can recite it if you like. Like, yeah, I can do that too. Ask me the questions, Bridge Keeper. I am not afraid. Yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing is a lot of people didn't realize that back then we were turnkey kids to a point. And what happens is we got our entertainment from TV, HBO, stuff that they would play over and over and over again. Princess Bride. Why everybody loves the Princess Bride. Never-ending story. I can go on and on.
Never-ending story.
We
One
heard
thing I
that
did,
over and over.
and Carson, my coworker who works overnight with Dwayne, I was shocked when I mentioned the movie Cloak and Dagger with Dabney Coleman, which I absolutely love. Because, yes, it has... They're playing a D&D type game in. That's what Cloak and Dagger is. But for the real world, it would be called Top Secret, or what's the GURPS? It's like spies and espionage, or
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're playing a spy. It's a spy game, and the game in the real world, and but I mean, he's like, oh yeah, we had it on VHS, and we would watch it all the time when we were over. I'm like, wow, like no, everybody's forgotten about that. Like the movie Tag. Nobody talks about that movie anymore. Tag, the assassination game. But dude, remake that one. That would be awesome now because everybody signs up to play the game in college, and they each get a dart gun and 1 dart. Excuse me. And your goal is to assassinate 1 person. So everybody's trying to assassinate everybody else. Why the hell
Well,
aren't we doing that on colleges now?
you know what happened is because that
Because
topic
guns are
evolved
bad.
and went into different movies. Think of the movie The Game with Michael Douglas.
You're
It's
talking about the
the
squeeze.
evolution of it.
The squeeze.
Huh?
The
The
movie's
Squeeze.
called The Squeeze, isn't it?
No, The Game. It's called The
Oh, The
Game. Michael
Game?
Douglas.
The one
The
with the
Game. Yeah.
lotto? Good morning, George.
No.
Are
No.
we talking
This
about
is
two
the one.
different movies?
No, The Game is the one where they have Sean Penn in it, and it's for rich people. And what it is, it's a true life game where you pretend to be a spy, and people are coming after you, but it takes on ramifications in the real world that whether or not you know what's real, what's not real, and it's a whole thing. It's supposed to be like a weekend. They have other movies like that spawned off of that
Michael
creation of the game.
Douglas, 97?
Yep.
I don't remember this. Oh, this. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's the accumulation, the modernization of that same topic, of that same movie. And from the game, they went into other one like Eagle Eye and some other movies where they even have a horror movie like it where I think it's called where they're doing something online and they have to follow it, otherwise there's penalties and they die. And I forget there's a horror movie, a modern horror movie of it. It's all the same
Saw.
version of that. Well, not Saw, no. It's I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it has to do with the phone and them calling up and with it.
Phone booth?
I'll remember. Hmm?
Phone booth? That
No,
one
not
where
from
he
both.
can't hang up or they're going to kill his
No, no,
family or whatever. I can't remember.
no. This one's a more modern movie. It's where what it is they have a certain thing that happens on the phone. They have to do it and accomplish it, otherwise by penalty of death. And it's an online game by phone with winners or losers, and it's tracked. It's done online, and you see things online. So think of Running Man done digitally, where all of a sudden you get a call on your phone and says, "You in the next 10 seconds you have to do this or this will happen," and it's on your phone and you have to do it, and you're forced to do something on it, otherwise face a penalty of death, maiming, or somebody else that you would die. And I forget what the movie is. A great movie, but that's the whole premise of it.
Oh.
And it's similar to the game that you get drawn into a game that is done over the internet for everyone else to see and their joy, but you either play or die. And other people are involved to it, they get into it. So it becomes a spy espionage type of thing. Then it took a thriller, uh, Saul type of thing to it. You know. So you got many different games that many different movies that are in the same genre.
Yeah.
I'll try to figure out that name for you. But yeah, the game with Michael Douglas. But yeah, in fact, that was based off something that actually truly happened too.
All of those
Actually, somebody died too.
esque games are just gross. We have a lot of money. Let's torture poor people.
Well, a lot of the movies and stuff go back. If you look back at what's happening in society, and that's why a lot of people lose the reference. A lot of older movies people don't understand because the reference is long gone. Going back to what you were saying, Three Stooges. Nobody watches the Three Stooges, don't understand the references.
Yeah.
Nobody understands the references to any old comedians.
Brothers. Yeah.
Well, even right now, George Carlin, and he died what 2016. So not even a decade ago, they're losing the reference to him, or they don't realize some references were made by him.
I bring him up constantly at work. I forced Tanner to watch Stephen Wright's earlier. Stephen Wright. I forced Tanner to watch Stephen Wright's. One of his. I'd kill for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, and how did he like it?
He thought it was funny. I also forced him to watch the worst movie ever made on creation, which is called Manos, Hands of Fate. But I gave him the MST3K version because it's hilarious. So I gave him Tombstone and The Crow with Brandon Lee.
Oh, Crow, that's a good one.
He had him along to But not Tombstone. You don't have anything to say about that all-star cast in Tombstone, guy?
No, it's a phenomenal movie. I can't say nothing.
It is.
There's so much you could say. It like here. I'll blow your mind about a fact about Tombstone.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
One fact that you may
What
not
fact?
know:
Go.
Tom Cruise was in Tombstone.
In the movie, really? Okay, I did not know that. Where is he in the movie? I've never heard this.
Okay, he's only in there, and he did it because out of Emilio Estevez. Tom Cruise was shooting a
He's
movie,
not in the movie
and they were
either.
well, not Emilio Estevez. It was somebody else that was in it. What movie was it?
George
Oh, I'm
Cosimo.
sorry. I take that back. I take that back. I mixed up. No, it was Young Guns. He's in the movie Young Guns. He's not in Tombstone. I take that back. I'm sorry, my mistake. Yeah,
Okay,
because
Emilio Estevez is definitely in Young Guns.
yeah, Emilio Estevez. No, it was. They were filming, and Tom Cruise has a death scene in Young Guns because he was just there as a spoof. They needed an extra right there, and they shot him, and he flew out a window, and that was it. And he's in the movie,
Nuts.
but it's Young Guns. The other thing was, what was it? Tombstone. I got that. There was something else in Tombstone that everybody knows that Kurt Russell actually did directed parts, but never got the credit that he need for directing Tombstone and cutting his lines out in the movie Tombstone. But there
That
was
was
something else that I
well. The problem is that that movie's like super complicated if you watch all the documentaries, and then if you watch the Michael Rosenberg uh, Inside of You or inside, is it Inside of You or Inside of Me, and he interviews Michael Biehn, and the director was just a giant. Well, the guy that wrote the movie is the guy that wrote Glory. And then he was all set to direct it, and they directed a whole bunch of it. And then he and the studio, I guess, had a falling out because Michael Biehn was saying that there was a whole bunch of scenes of there was a lot more building up the cowboys and how they interact with one another, and the reason that them defecting was such a when Sherman McMasters and the other two guys, uh, with Buck Henry, or no, Buck, not Buck Henry, sorry, wrong Buck. When the three of them defect, it's a lot bigger deal because they were respected within the group, and you know, and they kind of cut
it,
those scenes out, and they cut
yeah.
out scenes of the wives of the Earps, and the problem with history and movies is that the director and the writer want to keep close to the material, but the producers, executive producers, and the backing money and the studio also get a say. And that's why, like, everything that's done about history, it's, well, that's mostly accurate. And so with the Tombstone is that by the time Virgil and Morgan and Wyatt get there, the other two brothers, James and Warren, kind of already have things a little bit set up. So they
Mm.
kind of they that's why Tombstone is awesome and it's one of my favorite movies, but it's just about Tombstone. But do take the time and watch the 4 hour movie with Kevin Costner of Wyatt Earp
Wyatt Earp.
because that's pretty. It's fair. I mean, there's some inconsistencies, but it's fairly accurate for the life telling of Wyatt Earp. Not only that, it's hard to pick a favorite Doc Holliday with all of the actors that have played Doc Holliday since the 50s, the 40s,
Mm.
the 20s. But Val Kilmer is the most amazing Doc Holliday. Dennis Quaid is probably the most accurate Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid's performance of Doc Holliday is awesome. He's a little over the top. Although there's many recorded instances of Doc Holliday collapsing publicly, like he does in both movies, Wyatt Earp always respected Doc Holliday, because straight as an arrow, He always held himself up. He never let his tuberculosis be a problem. It just became a problem when it was too much to control, when it was beyond the human will. That's why it's like that whole, Doc, I thought you were sick. Oh, I let on a little more than I had been. But they don't really know who killed Ringo. It might have been Leslie Buckshot. It's the reality.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, they were going with hypotheticals. What could be what the consensus is, because the one thing is with Tombstone, with Wyatt Earp, and all the rest of it, with movies in general, sometimes it's brought up to interpretation and also a characterization of it. Because like with Doc Holliday, sometimes you don't want to play always too into that because he was trying to hide his tuberculosis. He didn't want it to affect him. Think of like a cancer patient. Don't want to have sympathy because they're going through cancer.
Yeah,
They just want to
treat me
deal with the
normal.
cancer.
Everything's fine. I'm not dying. Oh.
I mean, that's Wyatt Earp, and he did it with humor and stuff on it until it got the best of him at times. So he didn't want to let it on. He says, "I'm here to do a job. I'm going to do the job. I'm going to do what I can, and that's what I'm going to do."
Real in both movies, where he's like, "Wyatt, go away. Leave me alone. Live your life." Because, dude, you're in danger being in the tuberculosis ward. There's only a certain amount of people that are completely immune to it. Everybody else is susceptible. So you're right. You're exactly right. But again, you kind of watch movies because you love the actors and you love the directors and you love the writers, and you're not your average American isn't going for the authenticity. Only geeks like us are. Like,
geeks like that. What I liked about the Val Kilmer one, he made it memorable. He brought life to the character, whether or not he's 100%, Doc Holliday. It didn't matter because he was our representation of it, and he did an awesome job.
Yeah, he nailed
nailed it.
He nailed the authentic time period Georgian accent. It probably would have been a little bit thicker, but his mother had tuberculosis, and then this is becoming a history lesson. Because even so, they talk about Prescott, and Prescott, as it's pronounced here in Arizona. I say Prescott because it's Prescott. It was actually a major town. Back then, Phoenix wasn't the bustling metropolis that it was. It was called Pumpkinville, and it was the equivalent of Apache Junction, where tribes and the white man eventually, and Mexicans from the South came to trade. It was a trading hub. Pumpkinville and Apache Junction and a couple other places, because here's where we're growing the shit. Here's what we want for it. Buy it or don't buy it. Thanks. The equivalent would be in Arizona if you travel north and you go way north and you go by a national monument or something like that. You're bound to encounter Native Americans that are selling squash blossoms and other jewelry, rings, necklaces, bracelets, because that's made out of turquoise, which is wonderful. The mines are on their land, on their res, and it's silver, and it's just beautiful, and they do very well. But it's like one of those things, like, oh, we're close to it. Here's all the natives.
Well, the funny thing is, back then in that time, is Arizona. I mean, Tucson was even more established than Phoenix at that time, and Pumpkinville was just a stop on the way to California. That's all what it was.
Pumpkinville was a stop on the way if you were coming down from Flagstaff, which had the rail line. That's an actual. That's if you stayed on the train and didn't get off at Flagstaff, you would go all the way to San Francisco. That's just how it was back in the 1880s. But you'd have to go down to Tucson, spelled Tucson, which, oh my God, let me go back in time. 1992, and I get a job at Choice Hotels International, which is Clarion, Comfort, Sleep, Roadway, Econology, and Friendship, and you're gonna love this. I'm watching the training video, and the main CSR in the training video is Kendra Marino, who we went to school with.
What?
I
Kendra
shit
Marino?
you not. Yes, she's like, when
Holy
you
crap,
took training, beautiful, talented, intelligent Kendra Marino. And she's like, hi, thank you for calling Choice Hotels International. This is Kendra. How may I help you today? And she took a reservation in, like, I can't even remember, Mississippi or somewhere in America. I can't even remember. But I'm like, oh my God, I went to school with her.
I did not know that Oh man, I haven't seen her in
Gorgeous,
a long.
gorgeous woman. Anyway,
Oh,
that's Scottsdale. Anyway, but yeah, whereas Dennis Quaid was more of like, people describe Doc Holliday in three different ways: the historic way, the way that Wyatt Earp describes him, and they also describe him as being violent and outbursts, and they describe him also as the way he kills Frank Stallone, Ed, in the movie in Tombstone. Well, we aren't friends no more, and all of a sudden he just burst of violence and a bunch of either guns and knives, and then ending in someone else's death. And I remember my grandfather coming out here when I was very little, and we had to go to Tombstone, and we had to go see, and we had to go to Big Nose Kate. Back in the early 80s, the internet wasn't around. So I was picturing her like this woman with this giant nose. So, Big Nose Kate. She must, like a cartoon villain. She's the schnoz, like a Dick Tracy character.
Yeah, the bulbous nose.
Yeah, and then you see her in real life in the pictures, and she doesn't have a big nose. And Katie Elder and all that, and she doesn't have a big nose at all. And then when you become an adult and you start reading about it, and then the internet came along and made it a lot easier to get all the articles. Oh, Wyatt and Virgil used to refer to her as Nosy Kate, Big Nose Kate, because she was a busybody. She was in everybody's business. She was constantly meddling in affairs that didn't concern her. Because they like to paint this picture of like everybody getting along, and it'll probably never happen, but if I ever get the steampunk, The Adventures of Tesla off the ground, Kate is toxic to a group. She's a gaslighter and a manipulator. Now, she also speaks 4 languages, and she's also, Doc referred to her as her intellectual equal and referred to her as his wife, but then later she goes on to outlive him and to marry 2 other men, which is where the Sons of Katie Elder's stories come from, where Big Nose Kate have these, Doc Holliday's kid and these other sons that are like Avengers of the Old West in the 1890s. But there's no evidence of that.
No.
Not only that, if they had him in the 1890s, those kids would just be like 12. You want children to go murder outlaws and banditos, and what's wrong with you? Because the timeline doesn't add up. It's a fictitious, it's, fantasy like Silverado or,
Yeah, but you got to
Wales.
think of sometimes even history is a little embellished at times.
Oh yeah, just watch the Tudors and then read the real history. or as much as I love the movie Braveheart, dude, that's only half the story.
It's half, and it's only segments of the story that's been plucked.
Same thing with Patriot. That's only half the story.
Only half the story, and it's only certain events. Even with the movie Glory, certain events at a certain time plucked out of it. All of it
only half
done
the
like
story. This with wolves. That's not a real story.
Not a real story. It's all written hypothetical. What's funny is that
great movie, but that's not historically accurate in any sort. I mean, things like that happened. The Native Americans were not all these bloodthirsty savages that the history books would have you believe. Most of them believe, It's so much easier to trade than it is to heal from wounds.
Yeah, and nobody really wants to go to battle, go to war, and do
Yeah.
some stuff on it, 'cause it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of stuff to go through it.
Yeah, especially in the modern day, we take so many things for advantage. Or for it's so funny if a 25-year-old loses his phone, that's the end of the world. If a 55-year-old loses his phone, that's annoying. Anyway, so I was
I get
saying
another.
to Betty the other day that
Well, that's the funny thing is, like with this generation and other generations to come, if you look at it, is that a lot of them, because of the phone, Craig Upton, the comedian or whatever, said it the best. Phones are getting smarter. We're getting dumber. And he said this generation said, the phones are smart, but the people ain't. Is that they've lost their way to communicate, to talk to people back face to face in the day. They can't handle talking to people or rejection or denial or people not liking them. So they do it over the phone. So if it's ironically that you see people today are more disconnected than connected as ever before.
they would not have survived the 80s. These poor little gentle flowers. Oh my goodness, the snowflakes of the day. Because you had to have a tough skin in the 80s. And the 80s were gentle. Our parents and our grandparents and their grandparents made out of fucking nails, iron, stone,
Yeah.
and steel and harder stuff than it. You couldn't even compete with it. Back in World War II. Oh, Jesus Christ, here he goes again. But he has it happened.
Yeah, and they couldn't handle that type of pressure because I looked at it and everybody needed their safe spaces, and I heard of mental health and all that, but I look at it and I'm like, whoa, is I understand what mental health, I understand what some of the talking, but it comes to a point when enough's enough. When are you going to come to
Sorry.
the issue of the problem? When are you going to address the
Ah,
problem? When are you going to fix the problem? So it's like giving
guy.
people
Oh, go ahead.
participation awards. Well, we're all participating. We shouldn't get an award for
Yeah.
it. There's a first place, second place, third place winner. A participation award is saying you're good enough that you competed. Well, competing, we're all competing. Everybody does it around the board. And you shouldn't get a medal for that. It's like adulting. Oh, I hate that term. Because you
Yeah.
know what adulting is? You're just getting up and going to work.
Responsibility.
Responsibility.
I'm adulting
You,
this. No, you just go to work like the rest of us.
all the rest of us do that. We don't call it adulting.
All together now. All together now. Yeah. I'm with you
It's like
100.
well, it's like when and I've had some girls say this. It's like when women say they're independent. And I look at them and I'm like, no, we're all dependent. You're all dependent on your job. You're all dependent on other people. You're all
Independent
dependent
on
on the bus
social
driver.
media and
And like you're not independent of nothing.
whatever blog you're reading, whatever.
Whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing, you're not independent of anything.
The biggest crime in our society, going back to movies and shows, but it also reflects in TikTok, which, in theory, American TikTok should function like Chinese TikTok, but we're far too shallow for that to be a reality.
We're way too shallow. In fact, I think TikTok is just digital gaslighting.
Excuse me. I don't really have an argument for you on that one. I'm sorry. You're kind of right.
It's kind of right because what happens? You're only showing your part of it. It's like
Well, it's the
taking the thing to the
OnlyFans as
minute
well.
thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're right with OnlyFans because OnlyFans is, how can I say this? Um, OnlyFans is just an illusion, and people are buying into it. I'm trying to remember. It's everybody makes fun of Temu because it's cheap and so forth on it, and it's cheap and you sell on it. But what happens with OnlyFans is you're sold a thing to do, a thing that people want to do, but it's shallow at it's like a dating site. There
Ouch.
is no dating site out there that's guaranteed to get a date. No matter which one.
Yeah.
I keep it.
Well,
They don't guarantee nothing.
no, not if you're a man. But with OnlyFans, the problem is in the beginning, OnlyFans was supposed to be like a, hey, I'm traveling and hiking and doing this stuff. It's the same as Facebook. Unfortunately, like MySpace was for musicians when it started, when Facebook wasn't even really a thing 20 some years ago. And MySpace came out, and you had a theme song, and I had to tell Tanner and Jordan and everything, the reason that Weird Al Yankovic says I got people begging for my top 8 spaces, that's a MySpace reference because you could put 8 best friends as your top 8. And he even shows that in the video for a split second, but there's no context for it now because
It's all gone.
MySpace has gone the way of the dodo. No one talks about it. No one mentions it. And that's the biggest crime because look what you've done to the independent music industry.
Yeah.
Because,
And the funny thing is, exactly what you're saying with MySpace with OnlyFans. OnlyFans was.
this is why I drink, people.
Yeah. OnlyFans was only supposed to show your fans of what you're doing, your artwork, your songs, your music. It was supposed to be similar.
And expressive. Same thing with OnlyFans. And then all of a sudden, OnlyFans. MySpace disappeared and OnlyFans became a sex site. The scary, funny part is, long ago, ooh, OnlyFans, this seems neat. I have an OnlyFans page. I don't go to it. But now it's like, why?
You don't even want to be
is only going to be inundated with hot girls that are way too young and completely out of my league. So what's the point? That's why I stay. That's why we stay on Rumble and Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, and because like and subscribe. Eventually, everybody will find us and listen to our insane ramblings. But damn it, we're funny. Not just the three of us, but Ron's hilarious. Ed is funny. All of the people in the. I mean, I'd love to get all of our families on. Go ahead, sorry.
If we were to cut loose like we cut loose back in the day, a lot of people on here and the viewers wouldn't be able to handle it. Because the shit we used to say to each other and the shit we used to go up with, they would not be able to handle it. Because honestly, right now, we're not really ripping into each other like we used to. Because back in the day, we used to say some hard shit.
That and this isn't really the format for that, dude. But yeah, I know. we can make a vilification tennis if you want kind of show, but an argument, a roast. But I support. Rob's been pushing for the one-shot game, and I kind of agree with that. Ron is on board. I got to talk to Hannah about that. Everybody's just been so busy. I haven't been doing my due diligence and learning how to do more stuff with the media format. But the saving grace is that we got, it's all on my hard drive, each and every episode. And thanks to not a sponsor, but definitely love the product, New Egg in this adorable box, I saved for months, is 2 3-terabyte drives.
Go awesome.
New Egg was having a sale. Go New Egg. Again, not a sponsor. I just absolutely love them. I've been a customer for decades now.
Well, you know what? This is just trial and error for us right now. And it's only going to get better. We're going to come up to it. And what's going to happen is we got to get clipped somewhere. Somebody's got to go, look what these old fools are saying. They got to clip it. Then all of a sudden.
I would give us more credit on, okay, here's the reality of the life and death and life of the show. We did 26 episodes last time. And then we remade the show. And now we're at 21. Hello and welcome to episode 21. Like and subscribe. But that's Patreon. I don't know how to use that, but I know it exists. So we've come really far. The problem is that all of us have extracurricular activities going on, and you got stuff going on. He and I have a full-time job. Right now, he left us to do the meeting with the Scottish Rite, which is, dude, go. Come back when it's done. But,
that's the good thing about the honesty of the show. The honesty of the show is we do have other things to do. We do this as the talk about it. And sometimes we talk about certain things, sometimes we don't. I humbly say like we're the male portion of the View that we talk about.
Gross! Oh my God! I'm gonna smack you. Never say anything like that. How can the hell? No, ew. We're not the View. That's a evil show.
Evil show. But we contradict them. So it's not like we're exactly like
God.
We're the total opposite of them.
Oh, I feel so filthy right now. I feel like I fell in a 8-foot pile of cow shit.
Oh yeah, the View sucks.
Oh my God! I've tried to watch it, not just all the lampooned versions of it, because
You know what my favorite version of I gotta send it to you if I ever find it again. Somebody took an episode of The View,
and
all of them, instead of their words, it's clucking chickens.
Whoopi's just mad they're not going to make Jumpin' Jack Flash 2. She's still pissed. The first movie was terrible. There's never Sister Act 3. God, no, please, no.
No more Sister Act.
One? Sister Act, Jumpin' Jack Flash. She made another movie. As an actress, I would never take away the amazing. See, the problem is that Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey, now in the reality, I fucking hate them. But in the history of reality, The Color Purple is one of the finest movies that's on film. And I say, both of those bitches are, Anyway, the movie's really good. If you get a chance, check it out. You actually it's good. The Color Purple. It'll make you cry. It's during the slave days of America. So it's not an uplifting. It kind of is at the end, but it's like if the help happened in 1860. God, that's terrible. I feel dirty just saying that. So that's the problem with fuck Oprah, fuck Whoopi. The Color Purple is actually a really good movie.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's definitely. Don't you hate that sometimes when you go around people, you have to police yourself because you don't want to say certain things because you're afraid they might get offended? Or back in the day, I would be like, shut up, you moron. A lot of the problem. This is why religion and politics suck so incredibly bad, because a lot of the times, let's say this on, I'm often at odds with people's opinions about things that are happening, but I keep my mouth shut because I don't want to put stress on the friendship. Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't want to lose a friend. I don't want to. Well, my dad didn't care because he looked at all politics and religion as just a waste of time and energy and just the ultimum of stupidity. So, yeah, where my mom was really into Catholicism and really into being a Republican, and the Catholicism thing died when we were teenagers because she realized that it wasn't work. Actually, earlier than that, but she never let go of the Republican thing, and that's cool. That's what you want to do. That's your thing. That's whatever. But I believe that you have to be all parties so that you can make fun of all parties. So I've been all parties, but really I'm an independent. I really don't want to be involved in any of the crap that's going on. I vote for the best person for the job. I really don't give a shit what their affiliation is. And the problem is that most people kind of oh, well, then you must be this. No, dude.
Yeah.
don't even understand you don't have enough time to understand the inner machinations of my mind because it won't fucking shut up. But I don't want to.
It goes back.
It goes back
I know
to in personal life, I don't want to offend and piss people off. On Facebook, I'm a giant asshole.
Well, the thing is,
Do I
sometimes you
care?
have to.
No, not really.
No, you can't care.
Well, I mean,
Like
I
it goes back
care,
to
but
well, remember that old joke about George Carlin did about uh, people voting for people that he didn't vote,
yeah,
and the reason why he had a little something to show for it,
yes.
about it. It goes back, it's not going to make a difference. This voting, all bullshit, and he goes off on it, and he does this whole thing on it. It's people sometimes don't recognize the bullshit that's in front of them, and they buy into the bullshit. And so sometimes you have to tell people just what it is, and if they get offended by it and don't want you at your, I'll give you a big example. Like right now, oh my god, is I had friends that I had the school in touch, and this is in the cosplay community and in the geek community. If you voted a certain way, we can no longer be friends. Way we can no longer be friends. You know who I'm talking about? You know the
I don't
people I'm
want
talking
to.
about.
I'm. That's why I'm not saying.
And you know what
Guy,
I
let's not
went through?
back each other into a corner because we don't want to
No, no,
start
we're not
pissing
back.
people off.
Well, no, but this is what I said to them. One
It
person I
makes
knew
me
about, he's a good
sad.
friend and stuff on. And I said to them, I said, if you really feel this way, you were never my friend in the first place. And I said, you never are a friend on itself, because a true friendship would weather all this here. And I says, the most racist thing you can say
Oh, we're
is,
involving racism now too. I thought we were just on
no,
politics.
no, but he said some other things on it. So I wrote him a thing on it real quick on it. And I said, this is kind of biased and racist because you're telling people just because you think this way, you're no longer their friend. So I pointed to the attention. I never said anything about myself. I never attacked him. I attacked the problem. I said, by saying this, you're telling me that you're this. And I just reiterated and put it out. I said, if you really truly love, share, and hope and do everything on it, I said, you would have never been none of this. You would have never said none of that. If you would truly understand it, you would have hoped to understand everybody. Then he thanked me for it and realized and said, well, okay, he's right, because I wasn't attacking him. I wasn't calling him anything. I took everything that he said and I flipped it on his head and I said, if you would have said this to the other people, they would have called you just as bad as you're calling
Well,
them.
For me, it's a double-edged sword. For me, Voltaire. I respect your opinion, even though I don't believe in it. I defend you should have your opinion. On the other hand, I'm going to totally make fun of you for it. So
And you
I
have the right
tried to. Politics and religion, man. Because they do more harm than good, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Most of your Senate, Congress, all of your, not like the everyday, because the problem when you say government jobs, that's a big category it's actually divided into many, many subcategories.
yeah.
But your elected political officials that handle the banality of the infrastructure and the Senate, Congress, President, blah, 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 blah. I still believe that most of those positions should be handled like jury duty. It shouldn't be which politically corrupt villain do I have to vote for. It should be, oh my God, next year I have to serve 6 months in the Senate. My job's going to be pissed, or whatever the time period is.
Mm-hmm.
And the job, obviously there's going to be some, but especially in our world now, your job should be able to get a hold of you. Hey, George, this happened. What do we do? Oh, tell Steve in accounting to do this, and then ask Bill in shipping to do that. It should be fine. So you're still technically working, even though you're like, okay, we've got this much money to spend on garbage men and sewage and the infrastructure and highways and the parks and historic thing. So it should. Still, baby. It should be more of a cause and effect kind of thing as opposed to a bureaucratic struggle of power, which is exhausting and just wastes
Which is
time and money. And come on, all politics are over, but you know goddamn well that in 5 to 6 months there will be banners and cardboard signs on every goddamn corner. Blah for sell it. Blah for the school district. So and so for treasury. Da da da. Smith for. You're pushing me away by putting up all these signs because I love nature and I hate politics.
Mm-hmm.
But, old man rant over. Sorry about that.
No, it's true. As you get older and you look at stuff, you see all the BS and stuff, and sometimes you just don't want to deal with it or deal with people that bring it up.
Politics just is bullshit. I can't get that I like the whole president thing. I can't get that excited about a temporary employee.
Yeah, they're only there for a little bit.
They're there for 4 years. What do you want from me?
Here's the funny thing is, right now, everything that people are complaining about, it's not going to be the same they're going to be complaining 4 years from now. And 4 years after that.
No.
It's always something else they're complaining about, So it's irrelevant. Stuff that we complained about back in the 90s makes no difference.
Okay. Well, it just popped in my head. Let me give you a slice of ADD since you mentioned that. No one makes fun of how stupid Dan Quayle is anymore. Because he's not the vice president anymore. He was the vice president in the early 90s.
Yeah, and he was doing some weird, dumb stuff. And they made fun of him. Yeah. And how he talked.
It's the equivalent of different parties and how they handle social interactions. And I will only give the example because I saw it on YouTube recently, and because it was, I think I'm only on season 2 of Stranger Things, but they show the Mondale Reagan political campaign race. And recently, Joe Rogan's podcast, he had a guest, and he's like, have you ever seen the... was it 86? Correct me if I'm wrong. 4 years. It would have been 86.
85, 86?
85 or 86, Reagan was running against Mondale. And if Mondale had won, which there wasn't a hope in hell for Mondale to win. Not that Mondale wasn't but Mondale had Janine Ferraro, and that was really the selling point. She would have been the first female vice president long before the last one we had. But there's a debate at one point, and it was on YouTube, and it talks about Reagan was like 71 years old in 85, I believe, because he beat William Henry Harrison as the oldest president, even though William Henry Harrison only had 31 days. He caught pneumonia on Inauguration Day, and he died, and then Tyler took over. Anyway, which Tyler did a great job against all the history. Excuse me. I'm going to use the restroom in a minute anyway. So Reagan and Mondale are doing the debate, and the moderator is up there, and the moderator makes a comment of age, and Reagan eloquently basically says, I would never use for political gain against my opponent his youth and inexperience against me. And Mondale busted up laughing. And even Joe Rogan said, look at that. He just took it on the chin. That was a joke. I mean, it was like a backhanded compliment, but, dude, Mondale's going to way outlive Reagan. Poor Ronnie didn't, he got Alzheimer's and the end of... He held it together very well, but by the end, he did his 2 terms. He did his service. He handled Gorbachev very well because how the American presidents handle the Russian dignitaries. FDR was an actor. And
Mm-hmm.
he basically took a lot of Herbert Hoover's stuff and just kind of implemented it, and then had it reformed, and then just, hey, this is a great idea. Let's keep going with this. Where Herbert Hoover is vilified for the 1930s, but he's actually the savior of World War II. Or one. Sorry. Whoops. World War One. Herbert Hoover like saved Europe after World War One, and that's one of the reasons why he became president, because he was an awesome. He was a millionaire. He was a self-made man, but he was kind of detached from society. He would be a nerd if we. He was, you know, he was a very stiff individual. He wore the double-breasted suits and the high collars, and he had a melancholy to him. All the videos you see, he always looks like he's about to cry. But it isn't until Harry Truman that he's like the first president to like yell at the Russians. You can't be doing this. You can't be acting like. And even the dignitary, the prime minister's like, nobody's ever talked to me like that before. Well, you can't be doing stuff, and that's the beginning of the Cold War, where they were actually kind of like, whoa, Harry Truman's nuts.
Well, it's funny, but if you notice, some things come back again. Because even if you look at going back to Reagan, if you looked at Reagan up at in his first term, a lot of people didn't take him seriously because he was always considered the actor. He was the governor of California.
From California. He's not even from California.
Yeah. But what happened was, you could see parallels. It's not exactly the same, but he won the majority of the people over, and that's why he won the presidency. Because at first, for his first term, they didn't take him seriously. Kind of looks like with Trump too. Everybody else didn't take him seriously, but he won America over. They voted him in, like for the first term. Same thing with Reagan. Then they saw who Reagan was and how he dealt with Gorbachev. That's how he won his second term, because of what he did and how it was on it. People loved him and so forth. But the first time was really hard because they didn't really have his backing at the beginning of it. Because if you remember, they were kind of spoofing on him. But he took it tongue in cheek. He was able to overcome objections and stuff on it. So that's why people loved him.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because the same take could be. I would go so far as to say, not exactly, and I'm not an official historian. History absolutely fascinates me. It's been, I've been a boring guy with it for decades now. Reagan is mirrored to Lincoln. If you watch documentaries on how Lincoln handled public speaking, Reagan pretty much is the modern Lincoln. Reagan has all these stories. Reagan handles people. Reagan talks everybody up. Reagan will give a backhanded compliment if it's necessary. He'll yell at people if it's necessary. But for the most part, they have the same basic humble upbringing. The only difference is Lincoln's father is more of a gaslighting, manipulating asshole, and poor Reagan's father is a raging alcoholic, like off the scale. Like Ronald Reagan used to have to drag his father into the house because the man was so drunk he couldn't walk up the steps. I gotta go, dude. I'll be right back in like 2 seconds. My bladder can't handle it. Hillock, Iron Man. Be right back. 1 second. Fill in for me while I'm gone.
Okay. Now, for our viewers, basically what we're going to do until the rest of them come back is leave any suggestions, any thoughts and stuff on the comments that are happening. If you see this now in the future, tell us what you think, what you feel, and what your feelings about the presidents, Reagan itself, Lincoln, even with Trump and stuff right here, how some similarities play in the future and in the past. Because if you look at it, Lincoln, Reagan, Trump, all of them were attempt assassinations, with Lincoln actually coming to fruition. He was assassinated. Reagan was an attempted assassination in 1980, and with Trump currently done basically in Pennsylvania. So a lot of stuff, when you look through history, tends to repeat itself to a certain point over and over again. So when you go through it, sometimes you see a pattern that comes in with everything. clothing, music, institutions, everything. Sometimes have a lively point that comes back and forth with it. So if you see that or have any questions over it, be sure to put it in the comments to come up and look at it, and to share it with us. Let's share it with us later if you see it now or in the future. This video. Okay. Other things basically that we're going to get into, maybe, I don't know, some fun stuff and some other stuff right here. Um, a lot of stuff that you can't say with the policing of everything right now. Is a lot of stuff that back in our day we used to say what we meant and meant what we say. That sometimes you can't do that right now because of with individuals' feelings and how they are and react. So how you look at different things, the world is differently. I mean, we were out of a generation where we didn't have cell phones, didn't have that. So how we view it is, cell phone is a tool, but not a necessity. Hey, welcome back, Bill.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Now and then my bladder gets overfull, and well, nature takes its course.
It screams at you. It asks you nicely first, and later on it screams.
Yeah, stupid urine never stops.
No, but what I was saying is, you notice some of the similarities, because if you look at it, Lincoln, Reagan, you can even say Trump. There were assassinations.
I don't want to talk about politics, especially Rob isn't here to
No, I'm not talking. I'm not talking going directly into politics. What I'm talking about is something.
Go ahead.
But I'm not going into politics. You see history always repeating itself in different forms.
Yeah.
So whenever you look at history and stuff on it, you see a repetition at times. So like when I was talking to the audience, regardless of how it is in the context and on it, you see it repeated even with the JFK.
Yeah.
Certain points or certain things, you get an individual and stuff on it, and all of a sudden, not every president had an assassination attempt against him. But the ones that are remembered in history, yeah. But the ones that have are remembered in history, good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. So think about it, and you remember Lincoln because he was a great president, but more over the other presidents because of the assassination.
Well, Lincoln represents two amazing things because Lincoln is, people forget. 1789, George Washington, for 2 terms, is the first and only across the board president that is unanimously elected. That means that the Federalists and the Whigs wanted him to be president. Now, the Federalists were a bit more radical than the Whigs. The Whigs were old school, like the Democrats that we have today. They're traditionalists. They're from the old money. They're from the old aristocracy. The Federalists were kind of like their stepkids, and they were a bit more radical because you have Republican Federalists and Democratic Federalists. But Whigs are just Whigs. That being said, Adams has to be voted in, and there is a tumultuous thing because Adams is grossly overqualified, but psychologically not really, he's not really. Same thing with Jefferson. Jefferson is really deserving of the presidency, but he's not. He's a very sensitive man. He absolutely hates the criticism he gets. He doesn't like people second guessing him after he's already made a decision. The dude's a fucking millionaire, and he's, generated a very successful law practice. He doesn't want to be hassled by some tabloids of the day. So a lot of the times Jefferson says nothing. And it works because Washington says nothing. Because Washington's way of being a president is like Washington's way of being a general. He's not the brightest bulb. He's not the sharpest tack. Generally, he's kind of thought of as very nice, a gentleman, very tall, which was, the average human of the day was like maybe 5'8", 5'7". So to be 6'2", you're like a fucking giant. but he was, kind of a boob, a bit aloof. But that's just a smokescreen. Washington pretended to be dumb because really he was a spy master, and you're taught that as a child, but you don't understand the reference. And what do you know about George Washington, guy? What did he do when he was little? Come on, say it. I cannot tell a lie, father.
Yeah, top Jerry. Yep.
That never fucking happened. But that is a euphemism. I can't talk tonight. I'm sorry. I'm so exhausted. I was out at the ranch doing rebar in the rain. No, it needs to be done. We're getting closer. But it's a euphemism. It's an analogy, a metaphor for Washington was a fantastic spy master. He knew ciphers. He knew invisible ink. He knew exactly what the British and the French and the Hessians and all those other guys. He even learned the Huron and the Lenape and the Washington was no dummy. He just realized that he wasn't the smartest guy in the room. And the best thing you can do if you're not the smartest guy in the room is get smarter guys in the room and learn everything they know. And that's Washington's. Historians have said our first cabinet is the best cabinet we've ever had. Every other cabinet's like a pickup team. Like, oh yeah, we'll get Tim and Steve, and oh look, Ed's here, and But okay, George Washington is the first president. John Adams is the first vice president. Thomas Jefferson is the first Secretary of State. Henry Knox is the first Secretary of War. And beyond genius, Alexander Hamilton is the very first Secretary of the Treasury. And he performs modern day miracles of. He's like Greenberg, that guy that died not too long ago that like was going to fix the economy when.
Oh yeah, Greenberg.
That's what he was like. Only he was like 25. Because I'm glad I've never seen it, but they made a Hamilton musical. Yes, because this guy has like the most amazing story, and his life ends in a duel, and he has the very first American sex scandal that we've ever had. Long before Monica Lewinsky, long before Marilyn Monroe, long before what's the next one with Grover Cleveland? Before I can't remember the woman because Grover Cleveland, 1893. Well, now 1890.
Are you talking about his mistress or something like that?
Huh?
The mistress.
Whose mistress? Take a pick.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out which one you're talking about because there was one big scandal before then.
Oh, there's tons. It's easier to name presidents that don't have sexual scandals, like Pierce and Lincoln and Polk, than it is to name like Cleveland and Harding and dude. Like Johnson and Kennedy are the worst. Johnson's the worst. Both Johnsons are probably the worst presidents we've ever had because they just don't get. They're just sociopaths. Where Buchanan always gets two titles. He gets the first worst president. He's always ranked at number 50, and he's the first gay president, which probably. I mean, he did live with William Rufus for like almost 20 years, and. The problem is that Buchanan is more asexual than he is homosexual. William Rufus, oh yeah, I would put money down that he was a homosexual just because he hung out with a group of men that were considered dandies. And when they make negative references to Rufus is also Buchanan's vice president, but they also live together, and it's referred to them as the slur of the late 1850s is these men are Aunt Nancy's. They're Aunt Nancy's that live together. That was the term.
The slur at the time.
Yeah, that was a slur at the time that they used for that group. So, but Buchanan was friends with those guys and lived with those guys. But if you read about his life, this dude's like germophobic and well, not that that's been, but the way they always talk about how fastidious he was, as he would stay up to the late at night to the smallest of details. He never married, he never dated. He was a socialite, and he had an amazing uh, career in being a politician, but that doesn't make you a good president.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. He's in the same category as Adams and Nixon and Jackson, and just because you've done your homework doesn't mean you can teach the class. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't do. You have to have. You have to have a level of world understanding that's above your own ego for all of that to work, and that's what they don't really understand about. The first two presidents show America what can happen when you put the right guy and the wrong guy in the role, but nobody really paid attention to that.
I don't think anybody wanted to.
No.
And sometimes with certain presidents, when you look at it, sometimes certain presidents led and certain presidents were led. Because if you look at presidents were, you don't know whether they were talking or whether the cabinet was talking through them, you know? You know what I mean? What I'm saying is,
no,
you don't know if they were...
Yeah, you've added element... I've been talking about element A, you're mentioning element B, and then there's element C that we haven't even mentioned of, and this is what historians agree on. It's not so much the man or the party or the cabinet or the Senate or the Congress, it's the world. It's what's happening in the country and the seas and the world and the nations and, Washington, Adams, and Jefferson constantly run into trouble because England and France are at war with one another. Europe's not this safe fantasy far, far away place. It's a fucking war zone. You've got Wellington on one side and Napoleon on the other. This is all the early 1800s. We forget about that because we're so busy celebrating the early part of the presidency. But it's actually, first of all, Washington almost died right when he assumed the office. It almost wasn't. He almost didn't make it to be the first president. He concocted anthrax right before they thought he was going to die.
Yeah. That's man.
Medical care in the late very, very late 18th century, late 1700s.
Barbaric, if anything.
Barbaric. Let's cut his bloodletting. Leeches.
Bloodletting.
Oh, God. They don't understand about Washington. It's a horror show. I know I don't want to talk about, especially with Rob not being here, because he's not a fan of Trump. So my argument is, for me, Trump is an actor, and he's a businessman, and he's a mogul, like a public, But hey, if you're going to... I don't care so much about the person as the job you're going to do. So that being said, and I don't want to, no, I respect... I don't post... I try not to post political stuff on Facebook, because, again, most of my friends are vehement, and family are vehement Trump haters, and that's why I just politics, no, because everybody the problem with politics is everyone yells, and then at the end they get a understanding, but someone walks away angry, whether they admit it or not, and sorry, let me Trump and Donald Trump and Grover Cleveland are the only two presidents to be the holders of the title of non-consecutive presidencies. Let me take you back to 1893 and the terrible, corrupt Democratic Party, and it's corrupt now, it was corrupt then. For me, they're all corrupt. That's why I'm an independent, and even they're corrupt. It's a game. It's a rigged game.
It's a game.
You have more...
And we're all losers.
You have a better chance to win a stuffed animal at a local carnival than you do electing your president. There, I said it. So that being said, but Grover Cleveland, and Grover Cleveland is famous for many, many, many reasons. For one, he's famous for Ma Ma, Where's My Pa? Which Grover Cleveland, don't fall asleep on me on this one because this is a bumpy ride. Grover Cleveland is famous for a scandal where this guy in his 40s, I think she was in her 30s, Grover just couldn't keep it in his pants, which always cracks me up because he's a mean. Grover on Sesame Street is named after Grover Cleveland. And the problem is that if you look at history, Grover Cleveland is actually a shitty president because he's a Democratic president that takes public watchdog to the next level. And he really should have quit at one term. But the second term he would have had, Benjamin Harrison actually won. And he's the grandson of William Henry Harrison. And William Henry Harrison is a Civil War vet and kind of a man of action. Grover Cleveland is kind of a spoiled bureaucrat who can't keep it in his pants.
Self-interest.
Well, do you like Baby Ruth candy bars? I sure do. I really like them. Grover Cleveland is where we get Baby Ruth from because Grover Cleveland is the first president to get married while being a president, and he marries a woman who's like 22 years his younger.
Wow.
He's like 44 and she's like 22 and she's in college. And she's very pretty. And Grover is he looks like Wilford Brimley if he was balding. He's got the big walrus mustache and the big belly. And Grover even gets he's an avid cigar smoker, so he gets cancer. I mean, Grover's a man. I'm not going to take that away from him. You kind of have to be to get shit done in politics and not be completely corrupt. Grover Cleveland goes about stopping corruption, but in the process, he loses the human element. He's famous for saying, the people serve the government. The government does not serve the people. You're here to work for us. We are not here to serve you. I'm not here to hand out money. I'm here to stop spending. He's like the veto king. No, that's spending. No, no, no. And yeah, we kind of recover a little bit financially, but dude, look what you've taken away from, because there's the Panic of 1893 and the Panic of 1897, and Grover Cleveland is in the driver's seat at the throne on both. It's kind of like the fall of 29 and Herbert Hoover. He had no control over this. This just happened.
Oh, yeah, just happened.
The problem is with Cleveland, he did not want any part of bimetallism. Do you remember any of this from high school? What I'm talking about?
Yeah, I did. Mentalism. Yeah,
Mr. Wolf and Williamson hammered this down our throats.
Yeah, the mentalism thing was, he thought it was a sham, if I remember right.
Yeah, he didn't want to include copper and silver, so he ended up fucking up the country.
Yep. And it was a great resource, but he was stuck in his ways and his type of vision with it.
Yeah.
So that's why he did it that way. He thought a certain way for his time.
Yeah.
And that was the good thing and the bad thing about it.
It was. Grover Cleveland's wife told the White House staff, keep things tidy, we'll be back. And then Benjamin Harrison and his wife moved into the White House, and they had 4 years. And the problem was that Benjamin Harrison is also named the human iceberg because he was a fantastic speech giver, but he was a kind of a cold person. He was just kind of indifferent to everyone else. like any other human. He did good, like any other president. He did good things and he did bad things. Because the problem is, it's like, who's your favorite president? What do you think of this one? And what do you think of that one? It's like, well, for one, there were a lot of extenuating circumstances for what was going on in the country and the world. For two, these are just human beings. They're half intelligent, half animal. So they're capable of anything. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you're going to get issues. The best leaders are the leaders that don't want to be leaders, that are thrust into it. And although Washington is the greatest actor, he tricks everybody into believing that he doesn't want the job. He even writes letters to his wife. Oh, Martha, they're asking me to do this, and oh, I'm really against it, and that. He wanted it bad. He showed up every day. Washington didn't become a general until the Congress appointed him. Before that, he showed up to the continental meetings for the Congress every day in his colonel outfit of the militia, of the voluntary militia. And people kept going, dude, he's ready for. It's like it's the equivalent of Ollie North and the scandals and showing up in his Marine uniform or his military uniform after he was already discharged.
Well, if you look at it, Washington was.
I'm a big fan of Washington. I'm not talking him down.
he had plausible deniability, and what I mean by plausible deniability, it could be good or bad. And what he was doing was, he was like, well, he was unsure of how the country would be, or whether or not he would be a good president. So he had doubts. But he was like, if no one will step up to the role, I guess I have to. So when he was writing to Martha, with the letters, if I remember back in history, is that he didn't think he was right for the role, but since nobody else is going to take the role, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to make myself presentable. So he had to, in a way, buy in to becoming the president a little bit, the hype, because he didn't believe it at first. Then later on, he says, well, if I'm going to do this, then that's why you see a little bit of a change in him. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And that's why he acted a little bit like a bumbling fool. He was crazy like a fox.
Oh God!
Because he understood what was going on, but he didn't want to. He kept a poker face. He didn't want to let you know it. He didn't want you to see him sweat. So that's why he acted a little bit. Because if something went wrong, or something happened that went sideways, he could still recover from it, and people will still follow him.
Oh, let me go on this tirade because it's I watch a lot of documentaries. I read a lot of books on historical figures, not just Washington, but
there's a lot of interesting.
Washington's not perfect too. He was prone to fits of rage where he would just randomly attack somebody. He accidentally assassinated a French diplomat that was there to negotiate. He thought the guy was someone else, so he immediately just killed him. And he didn't realize till after the fact, he's like, oh shit. So Washington isn't perfect. Not only that, it's funny too in Marvel, where they Marvel and DC talk about who the presidents would be. And Washington would definitely be Bruce Banner. If he was in modern day, like in the 60s when the Hulk was created, his psychological profile is totally the Hulk. And especially like watching the Ang Lee with Eric Bana, that Hulk movie.
I could see that.
Yeah. So like they say, Madison is Batman. Oh, dude, 100%. Because Jefferson's more like Doctor Strange. I'm sorry, Dr. Reed Richards. He's Mr. Fantastic. Jefferson's more like that, even though it's hard to pick who Doctor Strange would be. But Washington is an action hero. He's the best horseback rider of the day. He's the best shot of the day. They found out later he's a minuet man. He is the best dancer of his day. He really loves music, even though he has no talent for it. And Mr. Miyagi said it first, but it's been said since Ancient Chinese Secret. if you can dance, you can fight. If you can fight, you can dance. It's the same moves. It really
It's
is.
choreography. Yeah,
So
it's choreography. It's a beat. It's a rhythm. It's
what?
like with sword play, with fencing, it's moves. Boxing.
Got to be
People don't
flexible.
realize that dancing and a lot of that movement, body
Dancing
movement,
and
with
music,
boxing and how you put everything.
you have to
So it makes
cooperate.
yeah, it's a true statement because even your stance of your position will determine on how whether or not you could deliver in a fight or not. Just your position of your legs, how you put your legs and stuff with it. With fencing, with sword play, anything of it, whether or not you have a defensive or offensive position. So yeah, that's a true statement with the dance, and a lot of people don't recognize that a lot has to do with footing and your, like Rob would
Breathing
say,
and how you move.
situational awareness, your breathing,
Yeah.
and a lot too. So it makes sense. Yeah, if you can
George
dance, you can fight.
George Washington was an when he was okay when he's young. The Washingtons and the Maxwells, I think, live near each other, and George is the other Fairfax. George Fairfax and George Washington are neighbors, and George Fairfax is very wealthy. George Washington's father dies when he's very young, so George becomes just obsessed with George Washington becomes obsessed with being better than George Fairfax, to the point where George Washington falls madly in love with Martha Fairfax, George Fairfax's wife. George becomes an assayer before he becomes an Indian fighter. So he learns how to survey the area, which is going to come in handy later
Oh yeah.
in his life when he's fighting Indians and when he's fighting the French and when he's eventually going to do the fighting the English,
Yeah.
the American. But all this time, George Washington considers himself British. George Fairfax is British. Everybody else is British. George Washington learns from a very young age, well, after his obsession with George Fairfax, and spends a lot of time alone. George Washington doesn't have the fastest mind. And he realizes, like how we were talking about it a minute ago, how he generals and how he does being the president is kind of the same thing, where he surrounds himself with a group. He, creates a cadre where everybody knows something that I don't. So I need to talk to them long enough so I can learn what they know.
Which is smart because all good people, even going back into a lot of the Suntan, the guy who wrote The Art of War, he said sometimes you have to surround yourself with good people. And that's where the whole, remember that whole saying, you are the sum of the five people you surround yourself with? That's what George Washington believed. It says, I might not know everything, but get the people who do, and let me pick the brain and go from it right here. So he wasn't, you can't call him a dumb man because took a lot of wherewithal and a lot of smarts to put the right people close to you in proximity so they can give you advice on some topics you do not know or cannot see. And it gives you that information that maybe the other person don't have.
How he's perceived before the Revolutionary War and how he's perceived after and after his death are night and day. Because the, his second term, the Whiskey Rebellion happened. Because his first term is kind of, it's the first 4 years of America. Well, America as
A fledgling country
it's
government.
been America for a while, but the Stamp Act and the Boston Tea Party and all that's really just the icing on the cake. Beneath that, we're in European Council and European courts, and especially French or English courts, we're treated as bumpkins. We're like
Yeah.
hillbillies that don't even get a say. We're essentially serfs. We're
Need I say
slaves.
inbred?
only
That's
so many
how
of
they
that.
treated them like that. Yeah.
That, but the other thing too is that we don't get a say in anything, and all you do is just take all of our resources, and we get a pittance back from it. We're actually making more money trading with Canada and the Spanish and all these other and the other local Native Americans. Most of them don't want to fight; they want to trade. They want to hang out
Mhm.
and party and
They want to be
dance
left
and have a
alone.
good time. And let's not worry about hunting until we have to. Let's not worry about
Mhm.
planting until we have to. And that's not a bad existence because the work gets done. You just don't have to worry about it all the time. Just
Mhm.
do it when you need to do it. Oh, it's this time in spring. Let's start planting. Oh, it's this time. Let's harvest. Where that's why it's a fantastic clash of cultures across the North American continent because you have
Yep.
so many different influences. And yeah, we talked about the major three, but there's also Pacific
Mhm.
Islanders. There's the Asians. There's it's the Vikings. It's not a cut and dry. Fuck, the people from the Mayflower, the first Native American they encountered spoke English. It freaked them out.
Yeah, it means
He
they
asked
already
them
had
for
contact with
bread
Asia.
and beer. Yeah, they were like, "Why do you know English? Because you're not the first person here."
Mhm. Not the last. You know,
Because
and
Walter
and when you look
Raleigh was here way before you.
way before then, yeah, he already did this stuff way before then. And and a lot of stuff through history, you find out that things weren't always what they seem.
No,
And the
unfortunately.
funny thing with history is that when people look at it, sometimes you look at it and you find a new love for it because when you see something, you look at it and you go, "Oh, I didn't know that," and it
Yeah,
changes everything. It changes freaking everything when you learn the pros and the cons or what people were thinking when it was
yeah.
happening.
I get excited about history because we need to learn a lot from it. And the first five presidents are a select period of time that changes with a not just a political view, not just a world view, not just a hemisphere view or a northern or a southern hemisphere view. It changes with a world view, a fashion view, and a move forward in a lot more negotiations that were inevitable. But it only was in the first for so many decades that the nation completely changed.
Mhm.
But
It wasn't a growing part and changing part because before then there wasn't the United States. There wasn't George
there's
Washington, the first president.
no, there was the
And
colonies.
the growing of the colonies, there's 13 colonies, and how everything was set was the the birth of the country. So it's the ebbs and the flows, the growing pains of it. So you had a lot of different things that showed up, and we're becoming a superpower. And but we weren't really a superpower at that time, really. We were coming into it itself because still even at that stage, as we were able to fight off the British, but Spain could have got involved. Anybody else, if they really had a hair up their butt, could have
I
went in and
yeah
wiped out America as it could be because we weren't a big superpower at the
no
time. We were
the
a fledgling country.
Spain. I think Spain and France and
Yep.
Germany and the Dutch and all that. I think they were just watching just to see
Yep.
what would happen
Yep. That's why I think
because
they,
I mean
because in reality, if they
we're an
really wanted
experiment.
to, France, Spain could have attacked, could have went, oh, we're going to take over the colonies and we're going to take everything, and we would have fought. But whether or not we would have been triumphant, who knows?
Who's to
We
say?
it hard to say, and we probably wouldn't be if they decided, well, we want that.
Well, I
There
mean,
was nothing to.
the problem is that it mirrors America mirrors Rome in that era where the French are having their own problem. The Hessians are for hire. A lot of other groups are for hire, but England is. Wow. Now what do you want? Now what do you? Oh, now what is it? What? Stamps? What the fuck is wrong with you? What? We're fighting Napoleon. What the fuck do you want? And meanwhile, one of the unsung things that we don't talk about is John Paul Jones, not John Paul Jones, the bass player and songwriter from Led Zeppelin, but John Paul Jones, the captain who took a ship who attacked English ports while all of the main English ships were either on the coast of America or France.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about
guess
that.
what happened?
Yeah.
Fire on the mountain.
Oops.
We've got all the gunpowder loaded on the dock, ready for them to go, sir. What? American flag? What? Weird shit. Ah! Why isn't there a movie about John Paul Jones? I still don't know. You did Master and Commander, but you can't have John Paul Jones destroying the English countryside.
That's the closest they come up to it. I mean, if you were to do a movie about
One
that,
day,
would it make
we
him
get
look,
a studio guy? Will make his movie.
would it make him look like an a-hole?
Yes, he kind of was. He attacked military reserves and civilians. He proved a point.
So maybe that's why they don't want to do it, because he's not heroic enough in their eyes.
No, he's totally guerrilla warfare. But yeah,
totally guerrilla. He's the strike first, strike hard, Cobra Kai type of guy.
He's Cobra.
Yeah,
you're the disease, I'm the cure. Explosions of death.
I'm going to shoot first and ask questions later. He's the one that's, send them all to God, let him sort them out.
Kill them all, let God sort them out. He's that guy. And Jones is, well, I mean, you've got the real Benjamin Martin and that whole thing. It's a lot. It's close to how they portray him with Mel Gibson's movie, but he's, for one, a lot older. And, what is it? Jason Isaacs' character chased him a lot. It was a big cat and mouse game. The real history, if you look up all that.
Well,
again, I mean,
a lot of it like that cat and mouse game, because it was espionage, basically, to a different degree, and you couldn't always trust anybody. Yeah, back then and stuff like that.
Well, the problem was that everybody considered themselves British. Even in we're British. So the thought of secession doesn't really come up until 1775 when they start mentioning it, and it comes out of Virginia. Mm-hmm. One of the Virginian representatives mentioned, well, maybe we should just become our own country. And everyone's like, Jimmy's got a good idea. I don't remember who it was, but I have to look it up. But that's kind of how it happens in the progression.
Well, if you look at it with
something there.
Yeah, it became something that you shouldn't said, and somebody said it, then the buy-in started happening slowly, because it had to go through the colonies of secession, because there was a lot of people that didn't want to succeed. There was people in America that didn't want to succeed. They didn't care they didn't like what the British was doing, but they didn't want to go to war for it. It kept going.
I think that if we had stayed a colony, we probably would have, and it would have ended up like Canada. Things would be different in a lot of aspects, but it would kind of be the same, because there would have been a revolution at one point or another, or that we just would have stepped in line like Canada and ruled ourselves.
Yeah, it would have been differently, because if you look at it, even with what George was going through, but eventually over time, you would get faced with the problem that Lincoln had about slavery. So even if we didn't become a state on it, eventually, over time, they would have faced with the colonies north and south with that issue, and they would have handled it much differently, because we would have been a colony to Great Britain. So slavery would have been a much different issue. All those issues coming afterwards from George, all those would have been different, because it would have been the UK, the British handling it the way they handle it. If you mean what I said.
Yeah.
So history would have been different. That slavery might have lasted a lot longer, might have not been a thing that was fought. Because the UK fought slavery different much later. So
Yeah.
slavery would have been
Well, no, it was
handled.
one
Yeah.
thing that Paul said and other black entertainers said is that African Americans have an identity that, like, okay, like Paul said, if you're in England and you're in London and you're black, you're just black. You're just a black English guy. There's no, like, you're not oppressed. You're not made fun of. You're just black. You just, you know, you're it's
You're
a
just you.
different world over here because of all the crazy shit that happened that, like you said, happened earlier in England's history. And I can't remember who. He's a comedian and an actor, and they had him on a talk show thing, and he's like, "Oh, the black American male is the most imitated male across the globe," and he was right. He's 100% correct. I can't.
The stereotype of it.
My mind. But it is, the stereotype is across the globe. There's certain stereotypes that they're not just a stereotype. It's also a God. I wish I could be that. I wish I could be that tough. I wish I could be that independent. I wish I could be that, because it's not this. It's not the same in England. No one gives a crap. You're just black. Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I mean, I'm granted. It's probably we're going through Paul's experiences in the '70s and the early '80s before he came over here in 1986. But I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, where he was stereotyped by the police for being half Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that happened within his area, it's obviously his fault. He's obviously a hoodlum. No, dude, I wasn't even there. So, I mean, there's always going to be uh, people that are afraid of other people for whatever happened to them or whatever they were taught. But
What a lot of people don't realize that is it's that's not racism, it's tribalism. Is you're afraid of other people because they're not of your tribe, and that's where the fear comes in, because it has nothing to do with the color of the person or where they are. It's they're not of your tribe. So if you are from a certain culture, and what happens is the tribalism kicks in, and you think, well, they're not the same as me, so they're my enemy automatically up the rip. And the tribalism is what starts it, because like in Great Britain, you're just another English guy,
yeah,
black, white, or indifferent.
you're just part of the
You're
crown
us.
because the
You're
crown goes all
part of
over
the
the
group.
globe.
Correct. You're part of us. Or if it's tribalism, they will look at it. Oh, you're not the same color
Yeah,
skin as ours. You're not our tribe. Attack them. So
which makes no sense.
tribalism is a big
America's a melting pot, but these people suck. Wait a minute, you
threat,
just contradicted
right?
what you said.
Threat. And there's where you look at, like, not I'm not gonna try to use the word racist, but that's where the birth of it is through tribalism, of people protecting their own tribe at the exclusion of others, and that's where it starts, because it has nothing to do with it. They come from another. They come from over here, the east. Well, they came from the east, but well, they're not our tribe. They're not our
Here's,
people.
dude. Okay,
Boom.
are you dealing with the same? Because Rob doesn't play video games so much anymore, but
Okay.
are you dealing with the same crisis for the last 25 years? Where, okay, we're born in the early '70s, and D&D comes out in the late '70s, the early '80s. So when I hear the word race,
I think.
elf, halfling, dwarf, half elf,
Yeah.
half.
Yeah.
I don't think black. That's what I think.
Mm.
Oh, which
Yeah.
game? Oh, we're playing Star Frontiers. Okay, I want to be a Vrusk. No, a Yazarian. No, a Dralazite. But do I have to be human? I'm human every day. Why do I want to play a fantasy game and be a human? That's so dumb.
It's remarkably that you say that, because sometimes I have to catch myself, because I don't. when I speak of race, I'm not speaking of racism.
Yeah.
Exactly like you, elf, troll, anything. I think a different type of racism.
Troll.
I'm not doing troll. And but then people automatically go to that. That's how triggered they are. They automatically go to that.
So you know what my response is, and they don't know what to do unless they're a gaming nerd, and they start laughing. Hell yeah, I'm a racist. I don't think for a goddamn minute. I'll start in all caps. I don't think for a goddamn minute that orcs and goblins and trolls and bugbears should be going to schools with elves and dwarves and human children, halflings. That just ain't right. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, sorry, we're just humans. We're just, like, there was a guy who was like, what do you think of racism? It was one black guy asking another guy, and he's like, another black guy, and the guy he was interviewing is like, race is a social structure. Humans are just different shades of wheat. Get this man a leadership position.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah.
Oh my God, there's nothing more true. Because when you're in politics, everything's about race. When you're at work, just get the job done.
Yeah, quit talking about it. And
Fabian, my boss, is black. Never comes up unless we talk about it. I love the guy like a brother. Tanner's half Korean. Same thing. Don't give a shit. I'm as white as I'm the whitest white guy you can meet. I'm literally descended from Irish, German, English, and way back French. No problems. We don't. They don't treat me different. I don't treat them different because they're valued co-workers, and there's only 3 of us for 8 hours. Covering 584 rooms and 7 pools and 2.
That's a lot now. Well, that's the big thing about it is.
I'm back down to 239. Getting stronger. Da 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 da. So many goddamn
Congratulations.
Thank
Good.
you, sir. I appreciate that.
It's always a job when you get older to do stuff because your body doesn't want to do it the way you used to do it. But it's some people. I hate to say it, some people wear the racism like a shield or like pride. And I look at them, I'm like, you are the most racist person I've ever met because you're using it as a crutch and an excuse to make everything bad or to you should cry next. And I look at them as it's not about that because the next person that just looks like you is not doing that. You know, and I always look at them and I feel sorry because they're so morally corrupted. They have no way, no idea and stuff on it. So it becomes like their religion. Their hatred becomes the religion that they love it so much. They follow it so much. They talk to other people that have the same hatred.
They create their own echo chamber of like-minded individuals that just kind of like regurgitate the same message over and over in new made-up jokes. And that's the problem. It's like, so what are we doing? Oh, well, this. Well, that's, why don't we like build something or,
What I missed when we were growing up, and you know this, Bill, is that we were smartasses. So we always challenged the status quo. Why is this?
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, why did it have to be that way? Why is it's not this? Always challenge it. You had to be a smartass to stand up for it, and even for the ridicule. Because sometimes being a smartass, sometimes you got made fun of. Sometimes you made fun of others. But you stood up and said it.
Take some, you get some.
You give some. But you were able to. You were saying, why is that? Well, it was done this way. Why? If you can't tell me why it's done, then why were you doing it that way? Why do I have to listen to you while we're doing it this way? Because it might not be right, Yeah. It's just that free thinking, the question why and why not, and what it is, and what gives you the authority to do that. And if it is the authority, okay, prove it. Now you don't get that. People parrot so much things that you look at it, and when you hear them talk, you hear the same thing over and over and over again. And I look at it and I go, how interesting. Nobody has an individual thought or can articulate really what they're thinking or back up what they're saying.
It's almost the Goodwill Hunting syndrome, where
Oh my
you've
god.
got these
I get it.
people that just regurgitate what they've been, you know, whether it's school or parents or news or whatever. And then you do your own research and you start finding like not just both sides, but all five sides. And you're like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And then you're like, okay, if this is this, suddenly you become a conspiracy theorist because you're just researching everything
Mhm.
because everything's connected. Well, yeah, we all live on the same globe. You just figured that out? Of course, everything's connected. We have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Nobody comes and like takes us away so we can have new experiences and stories and and it goes back to the it goes back I'm gonna Don King all the way back to this goes back to the assistant manager syndrome where you've developed the gaslighting narcissistic ego to a point where you're a legend in your own mind. So when an outside force arrives that is neither competitive nor malignant, but is cooperative, that's outside what your psyche is available to deal with. So you lash out in a fantastically jealous manner or projection manner where you're, you know, you this and that. Well, those are all the things that you do. No, you're doing them. No, I don't do those things. That's and all too often, guys at work, or women as well, the assistant manager syndrome. That will happen over and over and over again, where they're so absolutely frustrated with their own situation, but they blocked it off, and now it's personified in a projection sense, where it's directed at you or one of your coworkers, and that all of a sudden a new person comes into the mix, and now this new person has had real experiences and real, so it's sometimes, and this is several places. Like I not so much now at the new job, but I've only been there 6 months, so I haven't had all the crap that you normally have. It's still new. I still care. It's new. I still care about everybody. But looking back at past jobs, it's like I had a supervisor that manipulated me for absolutely no reason for like 8 months. Just kept me terrified that I was about to lose my job. Why? Gave me copies of reports she filed that she actually never reported.
It's her keeping you under control to do her bidding to also strum her ego. I know people like that. I've worked with people like that, and I've fired people like that. And what I mean by that, they exaggerate the truth to suit their own benefits, and they tell you partial truths. They lie through omission, and it's their idea when it's good. It's your idea when it's bad and fails.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do that. He did that.
Oh no, what you said is perfect. The problem with passionate people is if you run into a manipulative.
Well, I wouldn't call them passionate people.
No. Hold on.
I wouldn't.
Passionate people are the victims. If you're a manipulative, gaslighting, narcissistic person, and you run across a pure, passionate person, they can't help themselves. They've got to manipulate them, even just for sport, even just for pastime, even just to.
You know what I used to tell with those people is, you only have power. People only have power over you if you let them. So I'd tell people, because I would get people, I would get, as a manager, the he said, she said, they said that, and I would have to resolve conflicts between one individual and another individual. And I would ask, what happened? And I say, well, this was your part of it. This was your part of it. This is where we came to the misunderstanding. This is why you misinterpret this. This is why you misinterpret that. This is not what it means. So a lot of times I had to come in between because I was management with disagreements of my employees. So I look at it a little differently. So what happens is a lot of people are perpetually their own victims. They're the hero of their own story. Everyone else is the villain, and they can't see what they're doing wrong that causes it. So it's going back to not everyone's a narcissist. I mean, 5% of the world's population are true diagnostic narcissism.
Okay, narcissistic
But
tendencies. Okay,
yeah, but the only reason I said that,
Touche, guy, you got me.
yeah, but the only reason I say that is people use the term so loosely. But everybody has narcissistic tendencies, so they can become narcissistic. It just they're not diagnosed or actually done with it. With that being said, they use it against you, like with the trick or truth delighting. And the reason why you have the terms is because it happens a lot. So a lot of people will come up in, like in situations with that boss that you had, they were using that for that reaction to keep control of you, so you become the puppet, do what they need.
Yeah.
So they were trying to use fear over you. And the reason with that is they saw you as a potential threat at one time or another, and they wanted to control your outcome and your movement. So, like with you, Bill, sometimes how can I say, you're a nice guy, but you're an X factor, an unknown factor. They don't know where you're coming from because you can go anywhere on it. So you're like all over the place. So with that being, to certain people, you're a threat because you're uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And they'll go zero in on you because, hey, you're a loudmouth. You might say something that I tell you in confidentiality. They can't control you. So they they have to control you. They have to knock you down. They have to belittle you. They have to acknowledge it. It's where I'm the opposite. I don't speak much, but when I speak, I tell you exactly what's going to happen. So a lot of times people can't figure me out, like in the workplace, because I don't talk to you.
This is true. You talk more on here than you probably ever did at jobs and like out. You're just not that. I'm an open book. Well, my mom and you tell people all your business. If you talk too much, eventually people stop listening to you. And that's a huge advantage because they'll tell you anything. And that's what I've learned in life. But I agree with you on that 100% because the passionate person will fill in the gaps and go to the assumptions and jump to the conclusions. And the person with narcissistic tendencies will just let them.
You'll let them.
Were they doing this? Yeah, they were doing that too, dude. You should have been there.
Like what I tell people, this is what makes our dynamic so awesome because we're kind of polar opposite. I always tell people never go with the assumption. I would tell them don't assume because that Benny Hill said you make an ass out of you and me. Don't assume. Don't think of what it is because don't make that assumption because the assumption is always going to be wrong when you first hear it. Very few times are you ever going to get that assumption 100% right. You might get part of it, but it's still wrong. So I tell people never assume. Find out, because when you find out, then you know what you're dealing with. Because you never want to make a decision on half truths or think. And a lot of people do that. Oh, that person over there, he's so and so. Well, is he? Like I've had people talking about other people saying they're this way. Then I met the person, and they're not even anywhere close to what that person said.
They're that way when they have to be, but in general, no, not really.
Well, what I found out is the perception or the of it is that person sees him that way, but that's not who he is. So that person, it's their problem because they see this person as this, and they're not. So what the honesty of it is like that's how they're trying to portray him. That's how they're trying to portray you. They're trying to portray somebody else.
Yeah.
It's through their vision. So some people make the assumption, and they stick with the assumption. It's like sometimes. Like they use this, like sometimes when a woman perceives you as a certain thing, it's hard for them to change. So if you're the nice guy, you got to stay the nice guy. If you're you got to stay that.
My friend.
The perception of my friend, your friend, yeah. So the perception of you sticks with you, and it's hard for them to change it because that's who they think you are, which could be furthest from the truth. That's only how they perceive you as. So as I perceive you, you perceive me differently. And the truth is somewhere in there, but we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
But other people are making snap decisions just of right away.
Yeah.
So that the woman sized you up and said, "You're a threat. Let me cancel him, control him right now." And that's why she showed it to you, because that shows you who she is.
Oh, that was
Just by what
long ago.
a long time ago. But look at what she's using the manipulation. I the way to turn that around is sometimes is it. I'll give you an example of what my dad did. And my dad did something smart in his work, that he had a boss that came in that was just like that was always threatening in his job, right? And he works in aeronautical um, aviation. You have to do things by the book. You have to do it in a certain way. Any deviation, the federal aviation can come down hard on you. You can use your license and your certification. So one manager told him, "We need this product out. We needed to do it this way." He said, "Wait a minute. That's not the way you're supposed to do it." He said, "Write this down and tell me exactly," because he was threatening to fire my dad if he didn't do exactly what he said for insubordination. So he was trying to put my dad in a rock and a hard place. He says, "Okay, I'm not disobeying you." He says, "But I need clearly for you to write everything down, what you want me to do." And that manager did it. My dad took it, put it in his locker, called up the up ahead and the upper management, and especially the guys who did the blueprints and stuff, and said,
Yeah.
"Am I allowed to do this?" They said, "No, you can't do that. It's not within the limits and so forth."
So you're trying to get me fired? Oh, okay.
It says not, because if he would have done that, that the manager would have denied it and said, "I never told him to do that. I never did that." He would have turned
I
on my dad.
never.
But my
Of
dad
course
had
he
him
would.
put it in writing. He says, "I'll do it, but put it in writing so I know exactly what you want done. So there's no missing. Put it here." And he did it. And he got it in writing, put it in his locker, locked it up. And later on, that guy was escorted and he disappeared. That manager no longer worked for the company. So that's what she was doing, was threatening you with that. So the psychology, when you look at it with people,
Yeah.
sometimes to flip the psychology back is that she's using her, going back to the assistant manager, she
Syndrome.
should have never
Yeah.
been in management.
No.
She's not capable of management because she's she's ruling with
Tenure, not.
fear.
Yeah.
Fear. She shouldn't have
That
never
was
been in her
long ago.
position.
But
Yeah, but you could tell people who shouldn't be in their positions.
they're in the positions. How you feeling?
Well, it's
We're past 3 hours.
okay. We can end it for tonight. Rob's probably
Well,
busy
he
and
never
stuff on it.
came back, and it's
He never came back. No, it's okay. That's
should
fine.
we wait longer? I mean, maybe his meeting went.
No, but it's just his meeting, and that way he can have time to reflect and so forth on it. It's okay. We talked enough on to we're kind of beating a dead horse right now.
No,
And I
no,
like talking about
we
history,
can
but
keep beating it. It's okay. If you're willing to go, but if you want to call it, then we'll call it.
yeah, let me see what I'm on my phone real quick.
Yeah, really, because all of a sudden you'll just disappear, and then I'll have to stop the show.
Yeah, I'm at 10%. So
Thank you,
even though if
ladies
I
and
would want
gentlemen, for watching tonight. Remember, like and subscribe, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Rumble and YouTube and Twitch and all of the
and
things.
and put your comments down below. What do you think? Who's the best president? What do you think about the differences in the president and what we
I'm gonna
talked about,
start a
or
poll.
even your own opinions on next shows and so forth? We're open to different suggestions just to see what you're thinking.
I
If
didn't.
now and in the future or whatever, leave it in the description.
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about TR yet. Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh no, that's gonna be another big talk on it. Man,
He's
there's a lot to cover about
he's
him. Holy
he's
crap! In
probably
history.
one of my favorites, but he's also, like most of them, he did this, but he also did these things. He did this, but he also did some shit. Oh, look at him.
But it makes him interesting. Good,
They
bad, or
are
indifferent. He's very
all
interesting.
interesting. Pierce is the saddest one, just before the Civil War.
You ever think about it that in
Franklin
100 or
Pierce.
200 years from now, they're going to be two friends just like us on whatever type of platform that's in, talking about the presidents we're going through right now?
Yeah, I hope so. I would hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah,
I hope
if
so.
there's two old farts screaming about. One
if they
could
do it,
hope. Well, I mean, I'm just as willing to scream about all of the kings of England or France or Germany, or given enough time to do the research, or but that's another podcast for another night. I mean, we can only argue about what we know, and those are the American presidents and
yep.
the monarchs that we either read about or heard of or watched the documentaries from, doing our own research, or because in America you don't focus that much on them, and I don't want to get into it if we're talking about ending it. It's 8:15. We've been doing this for 3 hours and 10 minutes. We did pretty good, I think. It's a good show. Stay geeky.
Stay geeky. Stay geeky out there, you guys.
Like and subscribe. Thanks, Guy, and you have a great night. Next week,
night,
if not sooner.
Yeah, if not sooner, yeah. You got it.
Unless you guys want to do something during the day.
Well, we'll figure something. See what the scheduling's like.
Hopefully soon. We got Chris Newton and Ron and Ed and a myriad of other people.
Yeah. That'll be one hell of a game, though. One hell of a game.
It'll do.
It'll do. Yeah. Okay. Take care, you guys.
Have a great night. Thank you very much.